Hello, everyone. Welcome to XYZ Podcast. I'm Gary, and welcome to another episode of XYZ Podcast. It's been a while since the last episode because I was like busy with other things else, and I thought it's quite a opportunity. It's a very fortunate opportunity to invite Edward Tan from Spacemen Studio. He's currently based in China, and I thought it will be very interesting to know a Malaysian designer who is currently working in China. It's not just, because as I know, a lot of people are actually working in China, like, big firms, but most of them are actually working as the architecture assistant. But I thought it would be great to invite Edward to share his thought because he is actually the founder and principal designer in Spaceman Studio. Very interesting portfolio because as I know, he working in Shanghai for a while. So he's gained his experience and knowledge vastly in China, and I thought to invite him to share about his works and the studio's works, and also what I thought it would be very interesting to to hear his perspective on his personal experience, as well as how do we see in the perhaps in the future of young designers who wish to set up their own practice, and also to see what's the point of view on new Chinese market, especially as we know, it's like the economy is growing rapidly in China. It's not just in China. I believe that in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, or in Singapore as well. So there are actually a lot of development going on there. So without further ado, hi Edward, how are you?
Hi, Gary. I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thanks a lot for joining us. And I was like looking at the Instagram Spaceman Studio this morning. I believe you just visited a site or something.
No, it's actually my team. My team went to Hangzhou last week. We have a project there, and it's a museum project. It's a brand museum for joyoung, a Chinese brand. Yeah, so they went to take an inspection for all the mock-ups on site. I'm actually in KL.
Oh, you're not in KL? So
yeah,
you're back in KL first.
Correct. I've been KL since last January actually until now, so it's about 1.5 years.
But I'm quite, maybe I can throw the first question is I'm quite amazed with this dynamic where even though you are in KL, you are still able to work online. So how is it the dynamic going on?
I think everybody has had to adapt, because of the COVID, the new norms. I'm unfortunate enough because my team and I have been working for quite some time, my core team. So I have been traveling back and forth to Malaysia for the past maybe 10 years. So I do spend a fair bit of time in Malaysia. Every time I come back, I spend about a month. So we've been having this process of working through the phone or online for quite some time already. But of course, not as a long period as this 1.5 years. But yeah, the initial 6 months was tough. But I think after that, everybody got to adapt to it. So every morning it's voice calls, video calls, my team, So yeah, it's just constant communication. Now, in fact, actually because of this COVID, I have had to adapt, and then we had the chance to connect more with my team, through video sharing and stuff like that, So I think it's a blessing in disguise, and at the same time, I get to spend some time at home, So that's kind of nice as well.
So seems like you are actually. For some people, there are actually mixed like work from home and then plus maybe 2 days in office for meetings. But for you, it's like seems like a totally work from home. And I'm quite surprised, Edward is actually a very hardworking person. When I was like emailing him, he say even he works on Sunday and Saturday. So it seems like this kind of a very delicate attitude to work. I believe because like Spaceman is I would say it's a young emerging design studio. It was founded in 2014, which is actually considered quite young. Like, how do you see the development so far? Like from 2014, is it started off just by yourself, and then after that, now we have other 4 partners, right?
No. So when I first started off in 2014, I wouldn't even call it a company back then. It was just me, myself, going around looking for projects and stuff like that. So it was just the first year was actually a learning process for me, coming up from a company to setting up your own, there are a lot of things that you don't learn. They don't teach you in school, they don't teach you in the company, so finance, how to get projects, contracts and stuff like that. So the first year and a half actually was more of figuring out your foundations, getting the team together, getting clients. So yeah, the first year was my formative year. I think that was kind of a struggle at first, but it was a fun process. I learned a lot. And yeah, and then as we moved along, I have two more associate partners actually in Shanghai. There's a Shanghainese and there's another Malaysian. His name is
Mm.
also Edward, the Malaysian. Yeah, he's an architect.
Mm.
Studied in tailors. Went to UK. So I met him in Shanghai. So he's been with my Shanghainese associate partner has been working with me for 7 years. 6 years, sorry, 6 years since the first year actually. And then Edward has been working with me for past, I think, 4.5 years. Yeah, 4.5 years.
Mm.
So yeah, I think we have a very strong team there, strong connection. So yeah, that's how we can maintain this long distance relationship.
Long distance.
Yeah,
Okay, it's but
yeah,
I'm sure it's a more than sweet memories. I would say.
yeah.
I just thought, okay, I mean, maybe I can ask one last question before the sharing presentation by
Sure.
yourself. How many staff actually in your office now?
We have 9 staff in Shanghai right now, and then 2 in
Mm.
KL. Yes.
Oh, okay. Which including yourself?
Yeah. And the KL team is actually me and another designer.
I see. But most of the
Yeah.
projects are actually located in China, right?
Most of it. So since of course COVID, I've been back here, so I've had time to actually go and do some networking, talk to some old
Mm.
friends. At the same time, I've been approached by some companies and developers, to work on their projects here as well. So we do have a couple of projects here as well. So yeah,
Mm.
and yeah, we've been fortunate enough during COVID times. Yeah, we've had some form of new projects coming in and inquiries. So yeah, we've been. I mean, it's a kind of a blessing, and I'm very happy to actually finally work on some projects in Malaysia as well. Yeah, and at the
Mm.
same time, China side, yeah, it's been going okay. We've been lucky as well because even during the COVID times, we've been having inquiries last year.
Mm.
So yeah. So we've been blessed. Both sides, we do have some projects as well.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot, Edward. Later on we can definitely talk more about it because I'm also very curious. How do you manage, especially a practice working in different countries, and also how it works from economic kind of a sector and also perspective, and also the prospect in a way that how do you see them developing a practice. I think those are things that like you said, a lot of things that school didn't teach us about it. So I think we can learn this. I hope this
Right.
podcast will be definitely beneficial for a lot of young practices. So Edward, without
Yeah, I
further
do
ado,
hope so.
yeah, I hope that you can see my screen and then you can start off with the
Yes, I
presentation.
can.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes. So we are spacemen. We're based in Shanghai and KL, like Gary said. We are storytellers of space. We like to use space to create a narrative and create journeys. So we design spaces that kind of evoke certain memories, that take people on journeys as these spatial stories unfold step by step like a story. We are very driven by curiosity, and the studio is always constantly looking for new ideas, concepts, and we're kind of pushing the boundaries with new materials, new narratives. So we actually do a lot of brand architecture. What we call brand architecture is building for corporate clients, when they have a corporate branding and identity, and then we develop that into and transform that ideology into kind of unique, one-of-a-kind spatial experiences that tell stories. Yeah. So I've been in Shanghai since 2010. I was working for a retail company. So that was actually one of my formative years before I graduated, actually, I went to do an internship in Shanghai for 2 months. And I thought it was just a quick 2 months. I come back for my graduation, but that 2 months ended up to be 6 months. 6 months became 2 years. 2 years became now it's I think my 12th year there. So yeah, the time has passed. So I actually missed my graduation while working. So for my internship, I went to straight for a full contract. So then I just skipped my graduation and went full on into employment. Then
Right.
from then in Shanghai, I actually my company expanded. My previous company, sorry, I expanded, and they had projects in London. So they actually sent me to London as well to work on projects and to set up a team there. So while setting up the team there, I realized that I wanted to come back, because I was kind of exhausted that the 4 years that I was working. Because while I was working in Shanghai, I had to run the London team as well. So there was like the nighttime, to operate the meetings and all that. So when I went to London, I had to work in the mornings and work at night as well because the Shanghai team wakes up at night.
Okay, right.
So I think it was Malaysia. So when I tendered my resignation, I gave 5 months lead time, to kind of hand over all the projects. But then in the 5 months, started to get some inquiries on some small projects. Then I started to do small projects here and there on the side. And then hence that was what kind of manifested the idea to start up Spacemen, to do Spacemen in Shanghai in 2014.
Right. So sorry if I may chip in. Do you mind if I ask, like, you studied in Malaysia, is it? Or you study in Shanghai and then after that you intern there, is it?
No, so I studied in KL. So I was studying in Lincoln first. Started studying in Kowing, doing a diploma. Then the final year of my diploma, I actually went to Taylor's. I moved to Taylor's because I thought that I wanted to go to Melbourne. So from then, so while after I finished my diploma in Taylor's, I thought I'd take some time to go and do some internship. So I had the opportunity to work in this company in Shanghai, it's a retail company, but they do interior architecture. So I thought, 2 months, it's a good break, it's a good experience. Why not? So I went for it. And then, like I said, but just now, 2 months became 6 months, became 2 years. And I fell in love with the idea of that the rapid pace of Shanghai, the 2 months that I was there, I remembered because they threw me in, because I was only English speaking designer there. And I couldn't speak Chinese when I first went there. I couldn't speak Mandarin at all. So when I went there, so happened the clients from the UK, so I was the translator per se, so they threw me in all the meetings with the clients. And the clients were British, so they could only speak English. So they had to connect to talk to the so they had to they wanted to translate their ideas and all that. So they got me over, Edward, please come here. So as a translator, I did sketches and all that, So I remembered very vividly, that the few sketches of the lights that I was trying to understand what the client wanted. And then within 2 weeks, I saw mock-ups of the light. And then within another 3 or 4 weeks, I remember my sketch was turned, another sketch of a fixture for the retail store. The mock-up was already built again. I had to go visit the factory just before I finished my 2-month stint, and I realized that wow, the pace is quite amazing, and I realized that I was quite addictive, and I fell for that. So I said, what, let me extend my stay. This is a very invaluable experience, and I also wanted to see the projects that I was sort of working on, to see it through, and then from one project become 2 projects, and then you get involved with 3 projects, and also it was quite a great experience, and that was really my formative years, because the clients, they were all working on fashion retail, so they had immense knowledge on fashion and branding. So when I first started off, like I said, my formative years, my first few years, I was a blank canvas, right? I went inside, and speaking to them, having all these deep conversations about history and the culture, because we're working on menswear, and British are one of the most well known for men's formal wear. So we're working on brands on Savile. Number one, Savile, Gibbs and Hawkes, Ken and Kerwin, so all these very, very rich and historically rich, and with very, very vast history, So for me, established. So I started looking deeper and deeper, diving into it, understanding what these brands represent, So and at the same time, the clients were sharing what they want for the future. So the past, the present, and the future, So it's that genesis of learning, So that kind of form my ideas of brand architecture. That's what I do right now. So I've used knowledge to what I have now, and then I kind of study new clients, study the brand, study the background, where they're going, So then from there we form ideas and concepts, explore materials that relate to the brand. So that's actually how I kind of developed my style, and I learned a lot from those few years in Shanghai.
That's very true, because I was talking to a friend who is currently working in London. He also said that working with the Chinese designers or manufacturer, they are actually very quick. So technically kind of expecting you to come up with the solution pretty fast, and so that they can come up with the mock-up pretty quick. And perhaps I'm not surprised, because before that already viral some videos saying that, you can build a skyscrapers in, I don't know, within months instead of years. So I believe that later on we can talk more about it, about how to, work effectively in the context where the pace so fast. Okay, so maybe we can look at the future projects as well.
Sure.
So this is
Yeah, maybe you
okay.
can go to yeah. So this is one of our few brand museums that we're working on right now. So what a brand museum consists of is actually it's like a showroom together with a discussion area, together with a sales center. So this particular project, Vasen is actually one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, PVC pipe manufacturers in China. So they do all kinds of pipes, yes, all kinds of pipes. So our showroom, again, we went to extensive research into the brands. They had over, I think, 4,000 inventory of products from different sizes, different colors, different materials. So we go through an extensive discussion with the clients as well. And we came up with, maybe we can go back to the previous slide, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the introduction space. We actually use up to about 4,000 PVC pipes in this space. So actually what you see, this concave, we call it the ice castle. It's actually all built using their own products. So the whole space is actually using only their own products. So, this kind of resonates. Actually the whole idea behind the Vasen Experience Center is called Limitless. The reason we call it limitless is because this PVC pipe is something that is usually concealed, hidden works, but we kind of brought it out into a different perspective, showcasing it in an artistic manner. So what you can see here is that instead of hiding and concealing in the typical showrooms, we kind of brought it out as the highlight, hiding, installing lights on top above the PVC pipes, kind of creating this luminosity, these icicles hanging from the ceiling. So yeah, so this is actually one of our ongoing projects now, just started construction. I think should seeing completion in the year end.
Yeah, because I noticed the one of the Instagram photos showing the material mood board as well. So with the white color PVC pipe. So I guess is this project, right?
Yes, correct. So you see at the bottom here as well, this is the R&D section. R&D center for their showroom center. So again, on the left here, you see this pavilion, this curved pavilion here. Again, it's using a different profile of pipes. Okay, so we create this circular space, going up and upstairs as well, using all of the materials. So again, we really try to learn and understand what the client comes from, what they can do, what their manufacturing capabilities are, and yeah, of course, studying the history. So yeah, then that's how we develop and maybe use some of the products, or maybe highlight some of their spaces. Instead of just showcasing them in a very straightforward kind of showroom space, we use the materials as a building material itself.
Okay. So I guess there is, I don't know, it's very interesting. I mean, before that, it seems to be, aesthetic and structure seems to be two different things. But even though, I mean, of course, the PVC is not the, the main support, but somehow emerged into this, you mentioned it's an ice castle where, it flows into, almost invisible, where you don't see the structure. It looks like it's all supporting by the PVC pipes. Yeah. So this one is the museum that you mentioned, right? This one.
Yeah, this is also a brand museum. Yeah, correct. Yeah, this morning, you saw on Instagram last week, they went to Hangzhou. So the facade that you saw is actually the panels here. So this is actually Joyoung. They are electronics appliances brand in China, and they're based in Hangzhou. So this is actually their Hangzhou headquarters. So this is going to be their design museum as well as their design center as well. So Joyoung, the Joyoung's symbol is actually the sun. So as you can see on top, the logo is the sun. So we used perforation, the different kinds of sizes of perforation. Again, using that logo as a manifestation for the concept, for the very simple, clean structure for the facade. And then we develop that into our clean structure here.
Okay. Yeah.
So the sales and So again, we created a very clean palette of materials, using orange as a highlight. So whenever there's orange, that kind of drives the circulation and the focus. So at the bottom here, we see the orange staircase. This is actually the check-in space for the experience center. So the check-in, it's like a journey to the sun. So as you move up, you go up to this a dome space where it's actually all full of multimedia screens. So the kind of introduction space upstairs. Then they move on to science center where they have all the showcase of the technology and all the development of their products. On the right here, you see, it's actually the walkway of the archive walkway. So you can see from the left here on the top here, they are actually showcasing one of the very, very first soybean making machines from 1992. So yeah, or even before that. So they showcase from day one the products on the right. Yeah. So
this
yeah,
one.
this is one. Yeah, exactly. So this archive walkway, you know, they will showcase from the day one products to what they are today, transformation step by step. You know, so again, punctuated by the orange. So it's always that the essence, you know. Now, of course, on the left is the retail center downstairs. Yeah, so we do a lot of brand museums because I think the clients come in and ask us to want us to kind of take a deep dive into their brand and to kind of understand where they are, what they have done, you know, and then kind of create a narrative and a storytelling space. Yeah, it's under construction now. I think we will be also seeing completion in I think end year or January, hopefully.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. This is the NECC, the National Exhibition Convention Center in Shanghai. So actually, this is a very simple concept actually. So the whole exhibition center from the master plan is actually based on the four-leaf clover. So from the four-leaf clover concept, we actually kind of extracted that idea. And as you can see on the structure that we have here, this ribbon, this red ribbon here, we call it it's actually abstract composition for a red flag, and also we actually, instead of using a flag, we use the four-leaf clover as a pattern. And as you can see, it's actually an aluminum surface and we have repetition. So we created this red flag based on that four-leaf clover. So the reverse side is actually aluminum and the one side is actually red to represent that Chinese flag. So it's actually kind of using the red flag as a representative of China. And then at the same time, of course, the four-leaf clover that represents this whole master plan and this space. So this space is actually a showroom for this exhibition center. People, the buyers will come in and understand how big the space is, how much exhibition center do they have, and then they come in and then they will understand, and then they will start talking to the salespeople. So yeah, we kind of developed a very simple structure that kind of wraps around the whole space, that kind of carries the circulation and the sales center. So it's very simple, very direct concept that we developed.
Right. So
kind
this
of touches on the high.
Yeah, this showroom is much more on is it the building or it's much more on interior?
This is an interior actually. This is the interior of, this is actually a showroom inside the National Exhibition Convention Center. It's
I
a
see,
small 300 square meter, 390, about 400 square meters. Yeah, it's inside within this whole space.
Okay, because I noticed including the ceiling by the before that. I'm not sure about the before the status. What is it looks like? Because now the ceiling that you also design, right, where this kind of fluidity, white ceiling. So this is designed by you, and then the pavilion added in as well, right?
Yes, correct.
I see.
Yes,
okay.
The whole space, from the facade, the store entrance, the showroom entrance on the bottom left here, the interior space of this whole showroom is all done by us actually.
I see. Okay. That's interesting because I'm curious to know about the NECC itself, how is it looks like, and perhaps there is some contrast that you created there. Maybe it's I don't know. I haven't really checked out the convention center. Maybe it's a boxy design, and then you add in this kind of.
As you can see at the bottom here on the left, you see the bottom left corner, the logo is actually the master plan of the whole project. So that's actually what the whole building, the whole convention center looks like from on top. So we kind of extracted the architecture, the logo, and the branding all in one unit, and we created this pavilion.
I see. Okay.
Yes, this logo.
Yeah. So maybe we can move on to this one. This is in US. Okay, that's now we are venture into the US now.
Yeah, the Golden Guy is a very fun concept that we worked on. So we actually looked to the future for this project because the clients came in and said that they wanted to build a Japanese restaurant that had a robotayaki, a sake lounge, and a yakiniku space, and a speakeasy inside. So at the same time, they did not want a very generic Japanese Zen-like restaurant. They wanted to something that is more playful, so they reference like steampunk and stuff like that. And then we also looked into movies for ideas. So before we generated the idea, we studied a lot of film. If you are not sure if you're familiar with the Scarlett Johansson movie called Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell, right?
Yes, yes. So if you're familiar with it, there's a scene where they're walking into a restaurant, and there's these robotic geishas walking across this platform of lighted glass that kind of represents tatami, and then they walk into another long table, and then everything it's Japanese in essence, but it's very futuristic, very steampunk.
Right.
Yeah, so we actually kind of reference that a lot in this project, So we wanted to kind of design a restaurant that would be built in Tokyo 2030, perhaps, maybe in 20 years time or 40 years time, So we use a lot of Japanese elements, very generic Japanese elements, but it kind of added a little flair to them, So even on top, we see, we usually see these kind of red banners
right.
In those Japanese restaurants. But yeah, we kind of play with this curvilinear space. We use actually a metallic chain for this concept. And then on top right there, you see again the floor, instead of a very generic tatami floor, we use lighted frosted glass on top at the bottom, so it kind of creates this lightness. And then on the bottom left here as well, you can see, the basic screens, we kind of rotated it 45 degrees, so it kind of create to give this edge to the space. As you can see, even the table, the wood grains, we kind of tilted it 45 degrees again, just to kind of disorientate, your basic understanding of Japanese design. And then of course on the right, we had this, we created this ghost-like character for this space, So we created a very interesting story, a back alley Japanese geisha ghost. So the bar, we actually before you enter this space, you actually go through a Japanese arcade, in Japan, where you can play games and all that. So it's actually a hidden door. And then from there, you enter this little passageway, very, very dark, very intimate. As you walk in and progress and come into this ghostly-like space, So what you see in the center is actually about a few thousand LEDs that kind of create this 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional ghost-like feature that always moves around in the center as you see the girl's face. Yeah, so it's a kind of like a high-tech speakeasy bar. So again, yeah, all these very generic Japanese elements, we kind of give it a little futuristic touch.
Yeah, I mean the floor, it reminds me one of the scene in John Wick. He was like at the fighting at the glass with the glass walls and all.
Yeah, exactly. Like Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, all these kind of movies. You can see at the back there, in the red on the top here, the long table at the back. We also reference a lot of Japanese graffiti artists. So yeah, so we better give it something like a steampunk element to it. Something fun, something edgy.
Right. I think that's also perhaps a response to clients, like I say, it's a brand architecture and also the reflection of the identity and branding as well. So there is a very, very obvious touch and also taste in a way, because I mean, I'm not sure. Perhaps later on we can talk more about it, because it seems to be like, I mean, a lot of people might think this is very literal, but it's easier for people to digest as well. You're trying to create this kind of a taste for mass crowd, I would say. So there is this very straightforward and literal or even generic elements, like you said. It's gonna be much more, there is no guessing. It's straight in your face that you can digest it very quickly. So now we have sales galleries, experience center, showroom. So this one is quite interesting. I was quite intrigued by this one, which is a Gold 800.
Yeah, so this one was quite an interesting brief, because they are a new platform, a new club membership. So I'll talk a bit about the client first. They are actually high-end consulting membership brand. So the nouveau rich, the new rich of Chinese people, the new family that comes by with new money. A lot of them don't know how to spend their money, don't know how to invest, don't know how to send their kids overseas. And don't know where to spend their money. So they actually this club, this membership, this company is set up where you join. They provide all kinds of consulting. They give you finance consulting. If your kids want to go to NYU, they can give you a path and they guide you along the way. If you want to buy a sports car, they have a selection of sports cars that you can rent based on their membership, supercars, super yachts, private jets. So it's a space for VVVVIPs.
Right.
So yeah. So they wanted to create a very discreet and very high-tech, cutting-edge, ultra-exclusive clubhouse and showroom that can sell their products. So what we used here, we kind of experimented and played around with the idea of a bamboo garden. So the bamboo garden, we kind of extracted those elements, and created this modernist approach to the garden. So as you can see on the left here, what we use is actually acrylic tubes. So we had two kinds of so-called bamboo. We have the clear acrylic on the left, and then we have the brass, fluted brass on the right. So we have two kinds of gas. You can maybe go to the next slide. As you can see here, we have two kinds of circulation. One from the left, as you can see here, we have new customers coming in from the main entrance, and then the second route will be from the back where the crystal acrylic tubes were coming from. So that's where the existing customers will come in. So for the new guests, the reason why we use fluted brass, is to create this very discreet, very intimate journey. So this little corridor, this brass bamboo garden, come in, it kind of filters out everything as the salesperson leads the VIP guests into the space. Whereas on the other side, as you can see at the far end where we have the acrylic tubes, existing customers come in, they are greeted with this transparent bamboo garden, and that view over there is actually facing the windows, and there will have a lot of sunshine coming in. Hence, that's why we use the kind of transparent bamboo garden coming in. They get a lot of ample sunlight coming in. So we have this play of brass and this transparent materials together, but again, it's the same kind of synergy. Yeah. So this space, because they also have a retail section, so they have a selection of Japanese and Korean and imported American products here that are not really sold in the market. So what they have is that the customers can come in, they can look at the products on the shelves, they can bring the product to the screen on the counter in the middle there. They actually have an RFID card for each product, so they can just tap their membership card or their QR code, and then they can select what they want, and those products can be charged to their card and then sent to their home. So they do not have to carry anything home at all. So it's kind of that exclusive service that they can provide. So yeah, we crisscross retail and a high-tech multimedia system all together in one. So again, you can see here, we on the top left, that's actually the secondary entrance. So that's actually the lift lobby. So this actually leads to the basement car park. So the existing customers come in, they come into this crystal glass space, lots of sunlight during the day. So it's actually a lounge at the back of the lift lobby there. So people can sit down and wait for their turns, or they can, of course, go to the bar. So on the right-hand side here, there's actually a bar. Again, we have lined the walls with the acrylic tube, our bamboo forest per se. Yeah. So in the bottom left, that's where the main entrance comes in. So you can see this curved language, this fluted brass kind of leads people in. So you do not see anything from the front entrance. So you have to navigate and kind of discreetly explore all the way to the back before you actually get to the retail space, the showrooms, and the discussion areas. It was quite a fun project.
Yeah, I really like the photo, the image on the right hand side. It looks like crop out the another side. It's actually not, because of the alignment of the ceiling and the floor alignment, the flooring as well.
Yeah.
So it looks like a crop out image, like a portal to another's view.
Yeah. So anything about that particular image, you can see, the combination of materiality, from the crystal acrylic tubes. As you can, then you go further and further deeper in, you come across the fluted brass. So you do not see a very clear line of vision all the way inside. So you really have to navigate and explore the space by yourself, to actually see what's inside. So yeah, that's kind of why we wanted to create this discrete passageway, that's very exclusive, so that the guests do not bump into each other at all. So this space, right, is only by appointment. So they do not have a crisscross of new customers or previous customers. So they have everything sorted out in very well time. So yeah, that's the reason why we kind of created this very intimate space.
Okay, right. Okay, this is another one which is quite interesting one. I think this is
Yeah,
the most significant one because of the white color single palette color. It
yeah.
somehow dominates along the way in the interior.
I think one thing is that if you actually this street in Shanghai
Right.
actually is they call it a furniture street, you know. So they have a lot of furniture malls. So
Mm,
the whole malls is full of different kind of furniture brands, and also the reason why we went with something so minimalist, you know, is because the whole row is full of um, shops with colorful
I
posters,
see. I see.
vibrant windows, and all that, you know. So we wanted to stay away from that and kind of create this serene and very zen-like space, you know. So hence this white facade, you know, we took quite a while to actually convince the client to go this way because they also kind of stuck with the norm where they had when you have a logo at the bottom and you have a big poster at the top to
Mm,
maximize your sales frontage, you know. So we really had to sell it hard to the client, saying that, you know, we should stay away to kind of stand out. By standing out, we do less. So this is
mm,
actually what it is. So one of our concepts for this space is actually like a vortex, you know, like a vortex where
mm,
the water kind of pulls you in, you know. So there's actually why this clean palette and then the staircase, you know, kind of sucks you in, you know. So we want to draw people in from the whole busy street. So yeah, I think in a way that's kind of what the minimalist and very clean palette did for the whole project. And of course, it's actually reflective of the brand as well, you know, because Hire, they're a tech company, a high-tech appliances company,
mm,
venturing into smart home technology and all that. So everything is very slick. All the materials are very clean. So, you know, we kind of base that off their products and their branding.
mm,
Yeah, like I said, we wanted to create a vortex per se. As you can see the staircase, you know, kind of brings people in upstairs to the showrooms, and then this drop down of this curved element that we had, you know. So it's kind of this tilted ring that kind of draws people in. At the same
mm,
time, our ceilings, you know, we kind of covered it in mirror. So it's like this vortex in this water-like element in the ceiling. So it's like this floating material. So we just wanted
mm,
everything to be focused onto the staircase and then draw people in. So one of the key things that the client wanted was that they wanted to highlight some form of nature in the space. You know, they wanted
mm,
to kind of along this whole busy intersection of furniture shops. You know, so they wanted to create this zen-like space. You know, so what did we do? We punctuated all the retail spaces with lots of greens. So on the top right, you can see there, you know, it's actually a kind of a rest area before people kind of go into the showroom. You know, just to sit down to connect their phones because the whole showroom is about 3,200 square meters. That's about 32,000 square feet. So it's a
mm,
big space, you know. So yeah, we give, and then a lot of people come with kids. So that we give ample amount of time and small pocket areas and niches, you know, for the kids to kind of relax, reset a little bit before they enter the showroom. So on the left as well, you know, we kind of created this very tranquil and very serene-like visual from inside the toilet and of course outside as well. So you can see the bathtub is actually having a
mm,
view of the tree as outside, you know, so it's kind of giving this very serene, very tranquil space inside a busy retail area.
mm. I quite
Yeah.
like this angle wall. So it's like a
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
kind
know,
of
it's like
we wanted to draw the attention to the center and the bathtub area.
yeah, it reminds me of the Corbusier Roncham windows, kind of like it's like a draw-in kind of a
Yes,
window, and
yes,
then
yes. I guess perhaps they have inadvertently kind of inspired me in some ways, you know.
yeah, I really like this color palette where all white and somehow it give this kind of very. It's not striking though. I mean, it's quite naturally introduced. It's quite subtle, but then it's because of the contrast of the color, but somehow it becomes like a focus. So this photo is actually combined, isn't it? I mean, it's one
No, it's not. It's
photo.
not. So it's
It's
actually
one
the whole
photo. Yeah.
showroom. Yeah, it's one photo. It's actually the whole showroom, the whole showroom. So on the left is actually the master bed, but the master bathroom, and on the right is actually the master bedroom. And outside here is
Ah.
actually a full balcony, you know, the fake balcony outside. So yeah, they have the washing machine outside. They have a little corridor balcony space, overlooking outside. So you can see on top there they have this rack there for hanging as well. So yeah, it's a complete house inside the showroom itself.
Right. So it's technically taking out a floor plan from a show house and try to implement that
Correct.
into the lot. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So this is this is the same one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the view from inside, from within the showroom. So on the top right there, this is the view from inside where you saw that curved angled wall. So yeah, looking outwards, we created this very serene, very zen-like space. So again, always punctuated by nature. So also the whole showroom, we actually kind of try to minimize having too many partitions. So instead of partitions, you can see on the left here. On the left here, this is actually the main corridor coming in from the main door. So the spot of green plants there is actually the partition for the bathtub on the right-hand side here. Can you see that? Yes, this is actually the front side. And then on the right-hand side, the far right top picture, that's where the plants are kind of sitting. Right, yep, that's right. Yeah. So we kind of punctuated a lot of spaces and kind of crisscross them using a lot of greenery and openings. So they kind of can give this breathing space,
Right. So is most of the boundaries are trying to be softened in a way. It's not like solid wall. So there will be plants. Okay. So this is contrast with this is different from the previous project. I mean, it's still higher.
This is in Beijing. Yes, this is higher. So actually what we actually started working on this just at the peak of COVID in China.
Oh.
So yeah, the brief actually kind of change and evolve along the way, because at the point of time, nobody knew what to expect and anticipate. But the clients, I must give credit to them. Even during this, despite those times, they kind of persevered and pushed on. It was taxing on everybody because they were constantly changing ideas and directions. So initially, this space was supposed to be another experience center like what we did before. But along the way, they changed the brief to accommodate more live streaming. Live streaming is actually very big in China. There's part of very, very big part of their retail platform. So everybody buys things online in China. So what they did was they created a platform, a showroom space that allows for live streaming. So people come in, those influencers, those KOLs, they'll come in here and then they will come in and do their reviews. So it's lots and lots of small podcast rooms, a lot of live streaming areas. So it's actually a combination of retail and live streaming space. So yeah. So we kind of we extracted some of their language for the Internet of Things. So and online shopping, and you can see the language, the pixelated language is actually kind of showing that interface of their online service. So it's like, again, this very clean white palette, but again, just touching on the high-tech side of the brand. So a lot, again, on the bottom right here, see, we have a lot of these kind of small little intimate rooms for interviews and live streaming. So a lot of the KOLs will come in, they will look at the products, the higher products, they will review them right away, and then people actually do a lot of Chinese consumers will buy things there. It's a massive market. So yeah, we created this kind of a platform for these people to come in and do a lot of these kind of things. So we're punctuated with, on the left here, like a little R&R spot, it's just sitting under the tree, to rest, so it's a transition space between the upstairs and downstairs. So we create a lot of these kind of niches for people to rest. Yeah, Mango Autohome, yeah, one of our earlier projects when we first started off. Again, very interesting brief because they wanted to do something that was never been done before. So they actually a company that sells automobile cars and also the accessories. So they wanted to create a space that is like IKEA for cars. So IKEA actually don't really just sell furniture, they sell a lot of accessories, so, and then everything is online. So the key thing here was that they wanted to go O to O to O. Online to offline to online. So what it means by offline to online to online to offline to online again means that they want to attract the online customers to come in and experience things and then go back home and buy things. So no purchases will be done in this experience center actually. So that is one of the key challenges, of course. And the whole space is actually an abandoned convention center. So it's about 20,000 square meters. And one of the challenges that we actually experienced was that had to complete the project from design to construction in 90 days, 90 to 92 days,
Oh, so
including design.
that's why the
So it
containers
was a
comes in,
very,
is it?
very tight. Exactly. So we actually used about 87 containers of various sizes, all manufactured in Guangzhou. So we kind of created this multiplicity concept, this mini city within a city. So using all these containers, we created small little niches and different zones and different cities within itself. So to kind of represent the urban living, countryside living, and different kinds of areas using these containers. So the facade as well is like this Lego-like concept that kind of represents the containers again. So yeah, and of course, Mango TV was one of the partners. That's why we had this yellow, orangey, green concept. So they wanted that to be a representative of the brand. So as you can see here, we use different colors for different zones, for different so-called cities. So we have the red. When we have the red, we have urban camping site. So it's very outdoorish. Then we have it in the orange. We have urban city living, basketball court, bicycles and things. So again, they try to target different people with different kind of lifestyles, with different cars and different accessories and all kinds of things. So it's a very interesting project because of the really, really tight time frame.
I mean, I really, because before that I was working on a container project as well. I mean, but I didn't expect these containers could go so far. For example, like the orange one, you could cut like this. Of course, the containers, they are basically just the framework where you can see this is the frame, and then but I didn't expect you could, the infill sheet could go until this level, which is very interesting to see. I mean, of course, the advantage of container is because it's all kind of like a
prefabricated.
Yeah.
So we prefabricated everything within 30 days in Guangzhou, shipped over within 10 days. So we were left with about 2 weeks on site to kind of assemble everything and put together everything, all the soft decoration, all the cars and everything. So it's a very, very tight time frame. It was very challenging and taxing for my team. But I think we managed to pull off quite a decent project. It was quite a fun learning process as well. It was my first time working with containers, understanding the limitations and of course the opportunities, the containers and stuff. It was quite a very eye-opening project for me.
Like you mentioned, this convention center, it was abandoned, isn't it? Before that, it was unused, right? So this is the convention, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So those are those the existing one or a refurbished again or?
We just cleaned it up. We cleaned it up because again, 90 days, we don't have a lot of time.
Right.
We actually just cleaned it up, installed new lights in the ceilings, and then did the groundworks for our multiplicity concept, and then we assemble all the containers on site.
Okay, that's interesting, and I mean there must be a lot of restless nights. Okay, I mean when it comes to hospitality, for some people might be very familiar with this image, which is actually icha chateau, right? So I hope I pronounce it right.
Yeah, icha chateau. So contrary to the name, actually they are actually a tea lounge. So they serve Chinese tea. So they serve Chinese tea, and of course they serve a lot of food as well, Western foods, pastas, stuff like that. So the reason why we came out with this concept actually is because the client came to us with the site was about 140 square meters within a colonial building. Okay, so there were a lot of restrictions. There were no windows as well, and in China, there are a lot of restrictions in terms of building materials. So for example, for the ceiling materials, you need to have A-grade fire-resistant materials. So you cannot use things like fabrics and stuff like that. Or even if you have certain fabrics, it has to be of certain requirements. So we had to be very adaptable because the client wanted to use very natural elements. As they said, they wanted some greens and they wanted, because to them tea is about the nature, the natural elements. So how we kind of depicted that was that because our clients went to one of their tea factories in Longjing, they took pictures of one of their tea fields. And on the tea fields, if you see the tea fields, there's this curvature on the topography. So actually what it is what you're looking at is actually rotated version of the topography of the tea fields. So we kind of interpreted that nature, that natural element into something abstract and artistic, into a sculptural piece in the ceiling. And the reason why we used the aluminum change, the anodized aluminum change, is because of the fire resistance restriction. So yeah, I kind of created this, this curve-like installation for the ceiling that also became kind of this partitions for the different spaces. And like on the right here, we have a kind of a semi-private table for four. So actually the chains actually kind of create this small little intimate space. As well as you can see in the middle of the space, we had this very obstructive column right in the middle. So yeah, so we use that as an opportunity to kind of create this cascading chains coming down to kind of mask the thing instead of So instead of it being an obstruction, we kind of use it to create a highlight. I think that's one of the more iconic sides of the space. So you can see it's actually a very it's an old building. It's actually an old government building. So this whole development is actually built. It's a shopping center. It's actually built around this old buildings in China. So there were so many restrictions with the facade as well. So no screws, no nails on the facade, no paint at all. So we had to create a small little structure that can be inserted right into the structure without touching any of the existing structure or the bricks as well. So, and as well as the interior, they're confined to a 140 square meter space. So that's why we thought that we wanted to create a transportive interior design. So people can come in and kind of get lost in the space, So that was what we wanted to do. I think, the gold-like elements kind of, bring people away, I think that was one of the key things that we wanted to highlight in the space.
So technically, you have to design another separate so-called ceiling system to install your ceiling pieces, isn't it? Because you can't drill, you can't put on something.
Correct. So so we just created a very simple aluminum frame structure within, so to hang our aluminum chains. So nothing touching the ceiling as well, so it was quite the good thing about the chains is that it's because it's first of all it's fire retardant. It's also actually quite lightweight. So the only thing that was very tedious was that the contractors had to kind of do it DIY, one by one, to kind of create this curve. So we actually printed out to scale one to one on paper, and laid it out, and then they had to kind of lay the chains one by one. It took them about 1.5 weeks on the site to kind of lay all the chains. We used about, I think, 30,000 feet worth of gold chains for the interior.
Yeah, because from the, I mean, maybe some of you might notice this project from Arc Daily, right? My thought is a fabric, right? But it's actually a chain link. So every single ring is actually like a pixelated pixel pieces that actually combine together to form each curve, right? So I mean, it's quite labor extensive, but the result is actually quite good.
I think in China, because they're very strict with a lot of requirements for building materials. So even like, for example, Gold 800, the project you saw just now, the reason why we use a lot of these kind of modern materials, contemporary materials to kind of represent or depict nature elements, it's because of the fire restrictions. We had to be kind of, we had to adapt in a way where we can use something else to represent our concept. So for example, here that T-field topography, how do we represent that? My clients wanted to have a green element or natural element without using fake plants. He said no fake plants, but there's no windows here. So we had to be innovative in a way. So same thing with Gold 800 as well. That they wanted something green and something very grand. So again, we created that kind of bamboo garden element into the space.
Okay. This is gonna be looks like in the night time.
So again, we kind of studied the brand as well. So you can see from the facade, this is actually the front takeaway tea house. It's actually Japanese tea. When you have the brush, when you turn the brush.
Right.
So actually, our structure here is actually an abstract interpretation of that. So the kind of twisting motion of the brush. The tea brush. So the clients. We always go to the client's shop to have tea and all that. So it's again, just a deep conversation with the clients. They showed a lot of things, and also a lot of the equipment that they use. So from then on, we studied some of the equipment, and then we came up with a concept and a facade structure that kind of resonates with the brand. So on the right here,
Right.
the chains, kind of create this very intimate space without having any structure, because the space is quite small. So having the chains, even though it comes down to a kind of eye level, because it's a chain, even if you graze it with your head or you touch it with the hand, it's not solid. So I think that was something that's quite fun with the project. And we encourage people to touch it. So unlike like fabrics and stuff, when people pull it or tug it, you kind of you dirty the chain. So this actually, I think I saw one of the comments on I think was it Design Boom or something saying, some user was asking whether is it easy to maintain this particular material because there's so many layers. So I think the reason for me to use this is because of the easy maintenance, because you just need to use a feather duster or something to kind of dust off the dust. It doesn't get dirty, so the color doesn't fade. So I think that's one of the main reasons we use this material.
And also, I think the good thing, of course, like you say, it won't get rusty as well. I mean, it's a chain link.
But I could, if I can share one funny story about the project, So after I proposed the idea to my client, the client actually dropped me. He said that have you ever done this before? Have anybody else done this before? I said no, I don't think so. In China, they want to see a reference. I want to see a reference. Is there somewhere that's been done before so I can see?
Or at least a mock-up,
unfortunately,
right?
that's not the case. Yeah, or a mock-up. I said, unfortunately, that's not the case. And how many feet did you want to order? I said 30,000. Or at first it was 40,000, I think. So we actually kind of brought it down a little bit. So they were kind of skeptical. So they actually dropped me and went for a different designer at first. And then the project, so I thought that, okay, you know what, too bad, So they came back to me after 4 months. After 4 months, I remember it was October. They came back to me and said, that, Edward, are you confident with the project? I mean, with the design? I said, yeah, I mean, pretty much, but at the point in time, the truth is I've never used this material before, as you can see in a lot of my projects, a lot of the times, like the containers, the acrylic tubes, these materials I've never used before. I've only ordered them online. They came to my office and I looked at them, and then I've explored in my office or my factory together with my contractors, So other than that, I've never used them, and that's the whole point of me proposing the ideas, is because it's new. But so the thing is that with clients, sometimes I understand, because it's risky to spend X amount of money on a budget on something that you're not sure, or even the designer is not sure. So that's one of the challenges with something, sometimes pushing the boundaries with new materials or new concepts,
Right. I maybe I can chip in once. I'm not sure will it be relevant or not, the question, because I just thought, is this cafe, is it part of the franchise store? So meaning to say, do they have something that already similar types of use or program, and then this is kind of like a special one where you have things or design that is kind of deviate or different from other branches?
No, this is definitely a one-off. They are a franchise, tea franchise, but this is actually definitely a one-off. So they were initially supposed to, we were in negotiation to do another one, of course, to kind of develop further on this concept. So we're still in negotiation with the client. I think the client is looking for a suitable location. But we're still in negotiation. But this is definitely a one-off for now. So we've not done it any other place, or the client has never used elements like this. All the ideas, the concepts were brand new. Before this, they were very, meat and potatoes kind of tea shop, very standard kind of cafe-like space. So this is actually a bit different. They also told me that they wanted to serve more high-end food as well. They have steaks, they have seafood, lobsters here. So they wanted to create something more premium compared to what they had before. So so I think that's kind of why we went for this direction.
Interesting. I think that's a more, I would say, is a significant work. A lot of people might say it's a famous work from Spaceman Studio. I mean, maybe a lot of people didn't notice that's actually from Spaceman. So I'm actually quite lucky to interview the designer behind this project.
Thank you.
So this one, a charcoal. So this is another project that is a charcoal.
So,
okay.
A charcoal. So they are a yakiniku restaurant in Shanghai. The owners actually, one of the owners actually Angela Baby. And not sure if the husband, but she's just a minority shareholder. But the group, a bunch of Hong Kong people. So they were looking to open premium yakiniku Japanese restaurant. So, and their key thing was that they imported all their charcoal from Bhutan. So they only use a specific grade of charcoal in all their barbecues. So even things like their soap, dispensers in the toilet. They use a charcoal brand for their soaps. Everything is about charcoal. So we kind of use that ideology to kind of develop the whole concept and the brand, and of course touching a lot of those Japanese elements. So from the facade, as you can see on our left and right here, the main entrance. So we used black cheddar wood and created this portal entrance. So because this project is actually situated in a hotel, it's in Portman, Shanghai. Portman did not allow, again, fire restrictions with all the building materials. They did not allow anything that would be easily set on fire. So the facade, we actually used charred black cheddar wood and used them to create molds to create cement blocks. So what you see actually on the left and right here, the sides here, are actually cement. So we actually use cement to create this this timber-like finish. So yeah, to create this kind of charcoal-like portal entrance into the space. And of course, we also, I think we can go to the next slide as well. Yeah, so we kind of play around with the chidori Japanese toy, this kind of
joineries.
Joineries, yeah. So in the whole space, we only used this chidori joinery element and created all the partitions and all the framework for all the rooms as well. So it's quite a fun project in terms of exploration. Yeah, then again, a lot of the teapots and all these kind of soft decor is actually from the owner's own collection as well. So I think this one is one of the owners collected it from Japan, and then they wanted to highlight it. So it's quite a fun, interesting project as well.
I can see there is a lot of repetitive. I mean, if compared to the previous some of the works, as I noticed, there are a lot of repetitive elements. I mean, like the PVC tubes. And also now we can see the timber, which is a lot of the kind of repetitive. I mean, it reminds me of Kengo Kuma, this kind of, by using a similar, just one element, but somehow create a very immersive, like you said, environment and also the experience. Perhaps later on we can talk more about that, because it seems to be, I mean, it's not all the projects they are implying the same direction, but it seems to be like you are the studio is very flexible into other I wouldn't say style, but rather different kind of strategy, I would say. It's a very interesting project.
I think it's because we are a very young studio, and also for me, each project is like a new project, it's a new learning process. So for me, I enjoy the process of learning and exploring new ideas, new materials, new ways to develop concepts. So for me, I believe I'm fluid in that sense. At the same time, I'm open to new kind of concepts or whatever from my team, from my clients. And I think it's a sense of exploration. It's a fun process to me. I enjoy that.
Right. I can see how enjoy you are with playing around with the different materials, and also the program wise. Later on, we can talk more about it, because it seems to be they are actually quote unquote invention of a new program or new typology. For example, like you mentioned the higher experience museum or center, they actually cater for live streaming. This is definitely new things. Back in like 10 years ago, we definitely didn't see that live streaming could be a big thing. This is tealive. I didn't know the Chinese name called Cha Malai. It's something reflecting the Malaysian identity inside.
Yeah. So our Malaysian tea juggernaut, they are venturing into the China market as well. So we developed the brand, the concept of the brand as well. So it's actually a play on, actually, if you can see on the bar counter, is actually their uniform and one of their branding elements. So this colorful camouflage element is the representative of the different flavors, different fluids, all the different kind of teas. So we use that as one of the key concept development ideas, and then we kind of created this liquid-like form structure on the ceiling, that kind of represents that, again, very much with their uniform and their whole brand identity. Yeah, it's a very simple, very straightforward concept. Yeah.
So this is also including the color scheme as well? Or is
the color scheme is actually based on their corporate identity. Like I said, the camouflage is actually very also very clear on the uniform, the staff uniform and all that. So together with the uniforms and the brand identity, the cups, the takeaway cups, the design. So yeah, we kind of put the ideas from all these kind of elements into the architecture elements of our space.
Mm-hmm. So this is is this the metal sheet?
It's perforated metal sheet actually.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So actually that's me on the left there, and my associate partner Edward here.
Ah, okay, that's
Yeah,
Edward Chan.
yeah. So we took the pictures at night in the middle of the night. So there were no staff there. So we wanted to show the space, and also it was like a little fun photo shoot for us.
So now you are part of the model as well. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. Because
I mean,
a lot of the,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
a lot of
Sorry.
the times, our photo shoots are at night, in the middle of the night. Sometimes we usually go for no people in the photos, but sometimes there has the need for someone to be inside. So yeah, we just have to make do.
Mm, Oh, so okay. Now I just realized this is the mirror.
Yeah,
So
it's a
it's
mirror.
reflecting.
Yeah,
I was like, hey, how come four
yeah.
people? Okay.
It's a very it's a very small space, actually 30 square meters as well. It's a very odd
Mm,
triangle space as well. So yeah, it was quite a challenging project in that sense, but it was quite fun.
it's almost like a booth. It's very small. It's just like
Yeah,
it's
very
just a
small,
counter and
very small.
seating
Yeah,
area. Yeah.
correct.
Oh, this is I'm quite surprised with this one because I always thought, like franchise restaurant, for example, like fast food, especially the design always could be quite generic or quite typical, quite conventional. But this one is kind of like bring into another level. Perhaps in this context, would you mind to tell us about like working with big brands, for example, like fast food? What are the boundaries working that because I think fast food they definitely they need to preserve a very strong sense of corporate identity, but this one is sort of like try to venture out a bit to the try to challenge the boundary and limitations.
So we work with Yum China since 2017. This was our very
Mm.
first project with them. So we're working with them. They are a big group. They have hundreds of shops openings every year. They have Pizza Hut under their brand as well, Taco Bell, and a
Mm.
few other Chinese brands. So yeah, they have a big corporation. They have a very strong structure. Every year they have a new development. But what we do with them is actually creating new special stores. So they come to us
Mm.
with specific briefs that says that okay, we have this context is located in Hangzhou. Please feel free to explore. So we will look into the space, and then we will look into the location, the context, and then we see how we can develop an idea. So this particular store is actually very interesting because it's about 90 meters long, but only, as you can see on the right hand side here, it's only about a little under 3 meters wide. So it's about 90 meters
Oh.
by 3 meters. Yeah, and it goes around the corner and broken up by with two sets of staircases in between. So it was quite challenging, but yeah, me and my team developed an idea where we kind of referenced the Plaka steps in Athens, so where people can dine and relax and enjoy on the steps itself, so kind of creating this very, very long and unusual space, but kind of incorporating that family-friendly seating and change of levels in the space. Yeah, so it's kind of
Mm.
fun process. At the same time, of course, again, using a lot of their brand elements to create all kinds of graphics and this and that. So working
Mm.
with brands like this, is a play on interior design, graphic design, and of course spatial design. So it's fun in the sense, but it's quite challenging as well. Yeah, so
Mm.
because it's 90 meters long, so we had to develop many kinds of seating modules, so that it won't get boring. It's not just long stretches of seats, normal regular seats and all that. So yeah, you can see from playful seatings to waiting seats to exploring to the plaka steps. So we've punctuated with lots of greens. We have a shading space. We have observing window seats, single seater dating seats. So it's just a fun play on all kinds of seating typologies. So yeah, with brands like that, with KFC or Yum China, they gave us a lot of room to go and explore. Even within their boundaries, they had their set of graphic design packages and color tones and all that. But in terms of concept and the spatial concepts, we were free to develop all kinds of ideas. So as you can see here, yeah, we
Mm.
went. Yeah, we can. They allow us a lot of flexibility in terms of creativity.
Mm.
Yeah. So as you can see, yeah, all the graphic play and all that, all the materials, all very standard KFC materials, but we try to be playful and creative with it. So even like for example, the top left there, we with the penny tile flooring, we inserted like order and collect there and all the graphics. So we use a lot of building materials to create the graphics onto the floor, kind of three-dimensionally, you know. So it was, yeah, it's always been fun working with them. They are very open to new ideas. Yeah, so but we only do special stores, which are this one-off special kind of locales.
Yeah, so do you mind if I ask, like in Hangzhou itself, does it mean that only one special store, or there are actually like lesser, like two or
Oh no,
three?
we have done, I think, 3 special stores in Hangzhou. We have done in Zhengzhou. We have done quite a few stores for KFC over the past few years. Yeah, all different
Okay.
concepts. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So I mean, like when let's say we compare that by ratios from special store to the typical one, maybe 1 to 100 or 1 to 50, something like that.
Maybe 1 to 20, 1 to 30, 1 to 20
1 to
around.
20.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So this is another. This is the one I
Yeah,
think if I notice is located opposite a Burger King or something, right?
I'm not sure. I can't remember, but this
Oh.
was one of the very first projects that actually because I was, as you I started off my studio, you know, I was always
Mm,
constantly exploring ways to kind of create your own identity, you know, to understand where your skill sets are and what
mm,
suits you, you know, what your palette and things like that. So I remember very clearly, you know, this was one of the projects that actually I kind of let go of all these constraints and went for something fun that I thought fun, you
mm,
know. So yeah, the client was actually a very good friend. We've been working with them for I think three or four projects. So this was actually the third project already. So the concept was because this location is located in the B2 floor, basement
mm,
two, in mixed use building. So next to it, they had a huge co-working space. About I think 3 floors worth of co-working studios. Okay, that was the start of the boom of the co-working spaces. So this cafe was in the basement 2 floor in the shopping district area. So we had again a conversation with the client saying that, you know, what can attract people in this office space, you know, office dwellers. You're stuck all day in the office, you know, you want to get
mm,
out, you know, and
mm,
then so we are basement too. So what can we do? You know, so we wanted to again play on this the nature element, you know. So we wanted to create a space that felt like you were dining under a tree, under a canopy,
mm,
you know, the forest canopy, you know. So we created this timber batons, you know, the ceiling, you know, that kind of gives this very natural warmth, you know. So again, it's very much a cafe, but when you go inside, you know, it's literally like you're sitting under a forest canopy dining, you know. So it's just kind of
mm,
this, you can just zone out and relax, you know, instead of being stuck in the basement, you get
mm,
lost in the cafe space, even though it's a
mm,
very small confined space. Yeah, we wanted to kind of represent that in a very an abstract interpretation again, you know, not so direct, but yeah, something fun and something that can be transportive.
mm, mm. I noticed there is I mean obviously like we mentioned, the studio Spaceman was founded in 2006 14. So this project
14,
was
yeah.
in 2016, which is considered quite early, one of the earliest works. And there is
Yeah.
actually a sign to showing that there is a passion, there's a love for repetitive elements in here. I wonder what is your reflection now after you revisit this project after perhaps 5 years now.
I think during the start of my company, you know, even for me, you know, back then, you know, I had a very limited experience because I came from a retail background. You know, I only did fashion retail stores. So coming out to
Mm,
venture, you know, the reason why I started my firm was because I wanted to explore different kinds of typology of projects. I wanted to do houses, I wanted to do offices, I wanted to do
mm,
F&B, hospitality. But yeah, so the first 2 years, of course, was more of a sense of exploration,
mm,
finding my way. You know, so of course, with small studios, you know, with no portfolio, you know, so you can only look for smaller projects. So and smaller projects means smaller budgets. So
mm,
with
mm,
your tight constraints, small spaces, you know, what can you do? So yeah, I think from then it kind of developed a confidence in what I could pull off within the constraints that of the budget and then the spaces, you know.
mm,
So from then, yeah, you can see what you can develop, and then I think from then that's how I kind of developed by accident, I guess, this kind of maybe we say a style or a way of, yeah, how I kind of develop concepts.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
I think there must be a lot of reflection and also lessons and also values that you wish. I mean later on we can share more about it, because along the way, like you said, plus I mean not just about the time that you have spent in working on your own studio, and also plus the rapid and also the speed of working on each project. There must be a lot of things that already layered in studio.
Yeah.
So I think it seems like working for 5 years, but it technically feels like you're working for 8 years, because the amount of the workload that you
Or
have been
more,
working.
or
Yeah.
more. Yeah, it felt longer. That first 4 years, in Shanghai was jam-packed. I was working the daytime, nighttime I was trying to learn Chinese myself. At the same time doing research on my own, away from the work times, because I mean I just graduated, a lot of things were still new. But yeah, back then, like I said, I was thrown into the deep end with the clients because I was the only English speaking guy in the office. So the clients keep throwing ideas, and so that I had to study at night myself, do research, learn a lot of things in Chinese again. So that first 4 years felt maybe like 8 or 10 years, because I learned I kind of
Yeah.
crash course everything into one, this 3 years. So yeah, it was kind of and then of course even working on my own projects, the reason why I call spacemen is because any kind of space intrigued me at the point in time. Small spaces, big spaces, any kind of space. So for me, whenever you said, clients came to me, hey Edward, I have a space. I said, how big is it? Where is it? So first things first, yeah, I was very intrigued by all kinds of typology of projects. So yeah, that's how
That's interesting. I mean, there is I can feel a certain dynamic for the young designers. Yeah, there is a fire burning inside. And then coming out with along the journey, there must be. I mean, it must be tough, especially like you said, because if no mistaken, Chinese they do have six, like 996 or 997. Perhaps you definitely spend more than 997. Perhaps it's like 4 o'clock you start to work already.
Yeah. I mean, there were times when my wife back then, my girlfriend was saying that you need to turn off, you need to switch off, but I couldn't because everything was still new to me, and every project was an opportunity, and yeah, this is a chance for me to explore ideas, learn more about new things, try, what you see now in this cafe project, this is one of the ones that made it. There are countless ideas and concepts and proposals that didn't make it at all, so yeah. So yeah, the first few years, of course, were. I mean, I won't say it's tough, but it was a fun process, and I enjoyed every minute of it. And without them, those hard hours and those time spent learning and understanding things, so the practice hours, you kind of skip that. To me, it's like sports. To be good at sports, you need practice. So same thing with design. You need to practice till you become better at it. So again, it's a long design and architecture, it's a very long learning game.
Yeah.
You can't stop learning. So every project is learning. So for us, each project, each material, like you said, it's not about repetitive, but it's just that every time we come across a new material, we come across new opportunities, endless boundaries and endless limits to the material. So that fascinates me and my team. So we try to push the boundaries and as far as possible as we can. So then that's why hence you see all these kind of experimental projects, I would say.
I do agree that especially in design and architecture wise, is a long journey, because you learning every day, and just speaking on material is one thing, and understanding the bylaws, the restrictions is another new chapter, and different places have different kind of law and regulations, so those are actually take time. So maybe this is actually the last part. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the last part.
We still have a workspace after
Okay,
this,
workspace. Yeah. So
yeah.
when it comes to retail, it's very interesting, because I think one of the questions that I would like to ask is actually searching for the balance between retail and also the creativity, because that's where the struggle in a way. I mean, of course, whatever the projects that was built, it's actually come out of the success in a way that strike for the balance between, because sometimes you don't want to make it too retail-ish or commercial, but at the same time you wanted to establish or express your creativity. So by experimental store is actually one of the most intriguing one, where I can see this triangle. It brings me this kind of a new exploration of spatial experience. So Edward, would you like to tell us about this?
This is also another interesting project. Actually, we completed it in actually it completed it in January 2019, but the design was actually completed in 2017, if not mistaken.
Oh, so
So
that's
our
that's a long,
client,
right.
yeah, so we completed it in 2017, but the client I think had some financial issues or some reason, and they put it off for a couple of years. And then they came back to us in the end of 2018 and said, "Hey, let's get the project back on." Okay, sure. So as you can see from the very um, nature of our client, he did not depend on the store to make money. So for him,
Hmm.
it's literally a space for him to experiment ideas, experiment with sales, marketing schemes or events and all that. So hence it's a BY experimental store because he himself did not know where to start. He came to me saying that, okay, I have a space, 800 square meters. I asked him, so what is your main products? He said some fashion retail, some furniture, some art pieces. Yeah, some.
So there are a
So
lot
you
of
think
mix in products.
correct. And the thing was the brief constantly changed. Every time we spoke, the brief changed. So one time he said he wanted to have furniture pieces. Next thing you know, he wanted fabrics. Then after that, he wanted Supreme. And then after that, he wanted collectible fashion items. Or
Uh,
after that, he
uh,
wanted to do a collection of Air Force Ones. So every
uh,
week it was changing. So it was quite challenging because, yeah, hence the nature of the client. He had a very volatile kind of mind. So everything he saw, he wanted to do. So it was quite fun, but at the same time very challenging. Again, not many people can last can converse with the client for 2 years before the project kicks off. So it was quite
then
challenging.
in the end,
Yeah.
Supreme and Burberry, everything inside here.
So it's an experimental store. So that's why we fragmented. The reason why I came out of this triangle pieces and all these fragments, as you can see, it's like my client's brain. How I felt I kind of translated his brain into a space. Because his thought process was very fragmented all the time. So in and out. Different niches here and there. As you can see, we have 4 different triangles. Going in and out of the
Mm,
space. The outside is clad with mirrors. So you go inside, you don't see the space next door. You come out again. You are stepping out of a different zone and your different space again. So it's coming in
mm,
and out of ideas, different kind of categories of retail spaces, and then of course it's flexible enough for him to change every now and then. So it's
mm.
very much the brainchild of his mind and his thoughts. So yeah, that hence this kind of playful concept and ideas.
Yeah.
So all
And
these triangles is all
yeah.
niches that can use to display furniture, art pieces, all kinds of things. It's quite fun. It's actually a three-dimensional window display. We want to invite people in to walk into the display window. So it's kind of like
Mm.
it's quite fun in that sense.
So should I say this store also part of the online, offline, online kind of store?
Yeah, exactly. So they have an online store that sells all their goods. So they occasionally they will do a drop of a new sneaker collection or a new
I
launch or
see.
something. So yeah, and suddenly they will just change up all the displays here. So what you saw here and the bare bricks, when I came back a couple of days later, everything was changed. My friend
Mm,
asked me, hey, I went to the store. It doesn't look like the photographs. I said, I don't know. It changes every now and then. So yeah, so the client
mm,
was ever changing.
mm,
So the challenging thing part about this project is that because the location is also located in the basement one of the shopping mall in Soho, Fuxing in Shanghai. As you can see the back there, at the back of the store, there's actually a raised part of the store that's about 1 meter high.
mm,
So because it was so high and very awkward, we needed to create a platform for the thing so that we can kind of even out the spaces. So what you see is that on the left here, we used about 600 plastic pallets. Those
mm,
plastic pallets that you use for transportation and stocking things, because
mm,
again, the client had limited budget, so we had to come up with creative and innovative ideas of how to maximize the space and how to use the irregularities of the site to our to create highlights. So now, so we used over 600 pallets to create this landscape display area that can be converted into seating areas because as you can see, there's a very long passageway from the middle of the store all the way to the back. It's actually for the client to run to host fashion walkways, runways.
mm,
So people
mm,
actually walk in and out, yeah, going in and out. So display landscape of the plastic pallets can be converted into seating, tiered seating for people to sit down and view the fashion show. So it's like a Lego piece again, like it's mine. We need it to be very flexible and very adaptable, so it can be plugged in and out like a Lego piece, and then converted for the functions.
Yeah, I think in speaking of flexibility is one challenge, and also the profile of the store is quite odd. It's like cranky here and there, so it's not
Yeah. So
regularly organized.
correct. Hence, that's why I think it suits my client very well. Again, it's very fragmented. Like I said, the space is very fragmented. It's all over the place. So exactly
Yeah.
like what my client needs and what I think if you gave him a box, he would still come out with something like that. So I think this is actually the best space for him.
I think when it comes to inside, there are actually a lot of elements going on. It's
So
not saying that it's unified. It's still unified by a certain language.
yeah.
But
So
even though inside is,
we use very simple building materials for the project, because again, like our client is a private client. It's not a big corporation, and he had a big space. So we use very simple materials. Like on the right here, we use the building materials, the partition walls from the previous renovation. We dismantled the walls and we took back the aluminum, the structure, and then we used it and created some display counters for the store. And of course, we offset that with some polished materials like the chrome rectangle on top. It's actually a display counter as well. So we kind of juxtapose all these very raw elements and raw materials with very polished and refined materials to kind of create a very edgy retail space, because they do sell a lot of streetwear, high-end fashion brands. So it's kind of that edginess and the very rugged kind of feel. So yeah, we kind of use this kind of simple materials and create a very fun playground of exploration. It's quite an interesting project. And then on the left here, the client was saying that I wanted to make the fitting rooms bigger so that people can go, two-person can go in and take picture and all that. I said, you know what? How about this? Why not we take away all the mirrors from the fitting room and put the mirrors outside? We create photo op walls inside, photo op rooms inside the fitting room, so people can go in and have fun with it. So hence on the left here is actually one of the many fitting rooms that we have in the space. So we told the client, once they go in, people will identify this is a store, so that we kind of play around the changing room ideology, and then kind of flipped it out. So the mirrors are outside. There's no mirrors inside the fitting rooms at all. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. It's like, perhaps that also cater the need for, like social media or like you say, it's like that previous higher store. It's like a different new typology where you need to constantly adaptive to change with the needs of people, how people react to digital culture, for example. So perhaps fitting rooms will no longer become a fitting room, but rather much more like a showroom-ish kind of a program. This is what I feel. When it comes to things, how it changed. So this is where the so-called the plastic pallets for the transport. And also the layer.
So we used about 600 of them. So on the other side, we used it to create the platform, the display platform, and the tiered seating. On this side, we kind of created this display area, because the clients again said that they wanted to have a space that they can display their sculptures and stuff like that. So yeah, we created this platform area because the sitting height here is actually quite low. And so we used it as a display area instead of like a place where the people can walk over. So yeah, so using very simple materials like the plastic pallet and fluorescent tubes, so we created something that's very iconic for the space. It was quite fun.
When it comes to this one, also quite interesting. I never know that there is a welife. So it's like a lifestyle store by WeChat. What I would
WeChat Pay. So this is actually welife is actually by WeChat Pay. So they are exploring the ideas of they call it unmanned store. So people come in, there's nobody manning the store. People you scan on your with your WeChat, your ID, and you go inside. and then you can take things and you can just check out yourself, or you can buy online or whatnot. So the whole idea is just of this actually a pop-up. It only lasted about, I think, a week. So it was quite a short process, and the clients, yeah, wanted to represent. They built the shop just before Chinese New Year, so
Right.
they wanted to represent people going home, 回家, on the way home.
Ah,
So they want to do last minute shopping. So that's why, hence, we created this very iconic home element. So it's representing people going home. So they go to this space to kind of do their last minute shopping for their home and buy things. So they have their fashion stuff, they have their home collection, the furniture. So yeah, so it's a very simple idea, just to play on the home concept.
so it sort of reminds me of a life-size vending machine. So you just go
It
in
is.
and then you can
It's
take it off.
exactly that. It is
Yeah.
exactly that. It's exactly a life-sized vending machine. You were
Ah.
spot. Yeah, spot on.
Yeah, this is very interesting because I didn't know there is actually this. I mean nowadays definitely like Amazon, they are trying to push for this kind of convenience store, grocery stores as well. But this is a step, like approaching that level, but it's more on lifestyle, and so you get last
I
minute merchandise and all.
Yeah, I think it is a very easy concept to roll out in China, because everything is online. They buy everything online, and this is what years back. This is 2017, and even before that, they were all my staff, my Chinese staff. They all buy things
Mm,
online. They are It's very foreign to them to buy things like
physical store,
a
is it?
physical mattress, for example, or maybe a
Ah,
comforter. Things like things we buy from IKEA. I don't know. They said, no, why do you need to carry these things back? Toilet rolls. They
ah,
never buy these things
ah.
at home. Everything's online, so they are used to it. So here, same thing. They do a last minute shopping. They scan the ID, then they just buy it or send it to the house. So yeah, it's very convenient way of shopping, and it's very suitable for the Chinese market.
Hmm. That makes me also wonder, like, because a lot of things already depends on online, where there's almost nothing, no other purpose to visit a physical store unless you wanted to experience it and get the dimension feel and also see the
Correct.
actual things, right? So in
Yes.
these
Yes.
stores, technically, the idea of store or merchandise, or sorry, not merchandise, like commercial, they are technically remove the idea called cashier, right?
Yes, correct, correct. Everything, they scan a QR code, they give you a link, then on Taobao, they will leads to whatever link they have, and then you just buy it, and then they send to your house. So
Hmm.
it's like you said, they come in to go and experience, to see, to visually see and feel the product, and okay, that's it, and they go home.
Right, right,
Yeah, I
right.
think the the retail market is actually going very much this direction. A lot of the smaller stores are being they're not opening such small stores anymore. They are going for more flagship stores, bigger stores, experience centers that people can come and congregate and then go and understand the brand and learn more about it, then go home and make the decision themselves in the comfort of their own home.
Right.
So it's very much the kind of direction that the Chinese market is going.
Right. But I would like to throw one question, like perhaps it's something related to overall the projects as well. How do you see the future of the physical store in terms of architecture wise? Because if we buy from online, our understanding or experience is based on where we are living now, which is in front of the screen. The the design element, the environment is not scouted by designer by like yourself. And especially in the context of COVID-19, how do you see the future where maybe things like the mobile, the experience store will be more mobile in a way, because like
Not
our
just mobile. I think
yeah.
I think that's what the Beijing higher store works well, because the live streaming store, the concept behind that, because they want to see someone experience it on their behalf, holding the item in their
Oh.
hands, so, and then someone they trust, a KOL, a key person of influence. So that person holding it, oh, okay, selling in the idea, saying, hey, this is a very good product. Why is a very good product? So they get that kind of feedback. Instead of like going through user review. They actually get this kind of feedback from these people, these influential people. So I think that kind of do away with the insecurities of buying things online. So that kind
Mm,
of placates that. But of course, I think the younger generation, they are very savvy with social media. They go on Instagram to go and see other users, how they use new products, how they hold it in the hands, the size, the scale, and everything, or using YouTube to see and learn about all these kind of reviews. So from then, you get all this information down, easily available in your hands, in your computer, on your phone. So that actually kind of assists and helps with this kind of retail typology. So by having this online stores and then these flagship stores, people come in one time, they do the reviews or they come and see themselves, and then they can really go home and yeah, do their shopping online in the comforts of their own home, discussing with their husband or their kids or whatever, But yeah, I think the general direction is moving that direction. But of course, there are a lot of different kind of products that you still need to go to a shop, like a car, for example, But still, again, even like a car market, a lot of people are going online to go and see reviews, do a lot of research, before stepping into the shop. There are a lot of people are actually, based on my clients' research from Mango Autohome, they're saying that a lot of people have made the decision even before they step into the showroom. They've already made a preconceived notion that they want to buy this car because they've done that kind of research. And they're not like car experts or anything. So they are just laymen, so they come in with that kind of information, saying that, oh, it's like that. So maybe, yeah, I think that's how the kind of market is going towards. The consumer habit is actually changing. People can get a lot of a host of information for the products online. So like they get all the information before they actually step into the store. So people, that's why they have all these flagship stores now because they want to have the full holistic experience for the brand, from the products to the aftermarket service and all that. So these kind of flagship stores are kind of becoming the new thing. So people come in and understand the brand, understand the products, then they go home and make a decision. So yeah, I think that's where the kind of the market is moving towards right now.
Yeah. I think the moment just now you were saying like, what you have been designed are actually sculpted. For example, like live streaming, it seems to be like the architecture you have designed is also part of the storytelling, that even though the customers or the clients, they couldn't visit the store because like COVID-19, they couldn't visit the place, for example, then sort of replaced by the KOL, like you mentioned, to experience a certain product. Now in that case, the interior seems to be like a stage where you bring in the narrative through the screen to the people who are actually watching the live streaming, for example. So I think maybe that comes a little bit technical in a way, like when it comes to architecture, is no longer designing for experience. Of course, it is still like a three-dimensional experience, but also when we look through the screen, it seems to be that experience become like a very visual based, a very flattened experience where we really depends on the visual and also the audio that played out by our mobile or laptop. So it seems to be like there is a dimension play when it comes to designing for live streaming. I wonder, what do you think about this kind of perspective or criteria when designing?
I think that is actually still evolving because nobody really has. It constantly, this live streaming concept is constantly changing. The products that they're reviewing is constantly changing as well. It used to be smaller things, then we moved on to bigger things, and now they review everything. Now I'm sure you just go on YouTube, you can search for a review on anything at all.
Yeah.
From a lipstick to a hotel room to a restaurant to a business class flight. So I think that whole host of knowledge and information that you can get online, that kind of is kind of manipulating and changing the market of or the retail direction, And yeah, I think the briefs that I've been receiving, they are also ever changing. So I can't really say that there's only one specific thing that that will be very significant, because yeah, it's constantly changing. Things, the way the way consumers are processing information is different. So yeah, social media is playing a big part, definitely.
Okay, later on maybe we can talk more about it in response to designer practice as well, in a sense that how designers actually designing something so new, because before that there is no precedent study. Because when we talk about museum, maybe 200 or 300 years ago, there is actually museum, or like there is a things called gallery, but nowadays seems to be gallery, it diverged into multiple trajectories and directions. So the last part is actually workplace, and it's very interesting, especially I'm more curious on the co-working space. especially for designer like you. I'm curious, like, how do you see co-working space evolve? Especially co-working space is actually kind of new, but it's not that new as we thought. It's been in the market for a while. And how do you innovate in a way to challenge other competitors outside? I mean, not just designers, but also when you are designing for the corporates, how do they see the interior design as part of their identity as well? So this is, I would say, it's kind of more luxurious direction. Should I say so? It's much more like
with this project, the client actually this is their first venture into development. They are actually called Jingkong Group. They are a manufacturer of metal. So they are the ones responsible for the Beijing Nest Stadium.
Yeah.
So the outside structure, the outside structure, the metal structure was actually fabricated by them. So they do a lot of metal manufacturing for all kinds of industries and all that, especially building industries. So this is their very first venture into their own development, their own office space and all that. So the big boss, he came to us with a very simple brief. He told me upfront, he's a very simple man. He likes only a few things, and then he wants to keep the building architecture that resonates with his corporate and corporate philosophies and how he runs the company. So he wanted things very clean, emphasis on building materials and constrained into 3 different colors only. Okay, black, white, and gray. So that was one of the key things that he highlighted. So a minimalist, a constrained material palette, and of course consisting of the 3 colors. So what you can see here is actually the floor and the cladding of the core is actually one singular stone. The same stone but used in different methods. So the core actually we used 8 different kinds of finishing to kind of recreate different textures, different finishes, different colors to kind of create a very tactile kind of feeling to the space. So yeah, that's one of the key things that we wanted to explore. Maybe you can go to the next slide. Yeah, so as you can see, what we did was that we went with a very simple concept, like opening Pandora's box, So it was actually kind of deconstructing the core into different spaces. So by opening the few slits, we allow this white element to kind of draw people in through this very textured and very layered stone element and draw people into the lift cores and all that. So creating this very offsetting and very juxtaposed kind of material finish and kind of material palette. So from outside, you get a very raw finish, but as you progress into the building itself, into the core, it's a very serene white finish. So you can see the next slide. Yeah, so outside, this very textured and very raw concrete finish, this stone finish, sorry. And you can see this very clean slit of white, drawing people in. So this is actually the exit. So you can go to the next slide as well. Yeah, so coming in, going in, the white draws people into the lift core, and the lift core here you can see, this double volume, 2-story high, very clean, very minimalist. It's a very clean palette. So people coming in from the busy lobby space coming in here is very clean palette, neutral and very zen-like. So before you go ascend up to the upper floors, you kind of create this very, very zen-like space before you enter upstairs. So this clear contrast, again, very clean, very simple material palette.
I thought it's very interesting because I always thought like especially the right hand side, this is a pure, almost like white color. What you can see only a little gray is perhaps is the shadow and also the leaf indication and stuff. So it's very cold for me. It's almost like emotionless. But then it's very interesting because, like you say, there's this shift, like from a dark color space go into the lift lobby, which is totally blank or cold, but then go to the office is create this refreshing experience.
We wanted to create a very clean space because they wanted to get away from the hustle and bustle. Getting away from the metro. It's very busy. Going to the lift lobby, the lights, the materials. It's this kind of generating this movement. And then you come in here, everything calms down. Because in the morning, especially, going upstairs, people have to queue up and line up. So it gives this calming element and gives calming presence in the space before you enter into the upper floors. Kind of like this washing of this
It's like
emotions.
cleansing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. This is the office, right? Which is on top, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is the premium co-working space because they wanted, this was back in 2016. Not many office buildings they had a lot of co-working
Hmm.
offices yet. Yeah, but then our client wanted to go and go down that route and explore. So back then they were already like WeWork and all these kind of more vibrant and fun spaces. But because our clients, they're not that kind of creative company. They are more corporate, more serious. So they wanted to kind
Hmm.
of represent that kind of side of the company as well. At the same time, of course, adapting that new sharing and co-working space kind of feel. So in this district where the building is located, actually they are the highest office tower in the whole location. And hence, the boss said that, okay, my requirement for the space is that I do not want the very generic logo wall and the front entrance. So as you come in here, as you can see, there's no walls in the office. So you
Hmm.
come in into the reception area with a very low wall. So the logos at the
Hmm.
bottom as well. Yeah. So this floating white marble concierge, greets the customers coming in. We have these two rectangular elements that are floating in the ceiling, to kind of zone out these two kind of lounge areas. So as you can see, there's no walls along the whole space. So it's very, very open.
Hmm.
It's to kind of highlight the 360-degree view of this new development space.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it
Again,
still
very neutral
considers much
palette.
more, yeah, consider much more luxurious rather than compared to a lot of
Yes,
co-working
yes,
place nowadays, more casual, more
correct.
funky. Yeah.
Correct. Because they do, I mean, they deal with metal and all these kind of things. So it's kind of a more serious kind of industry. So as you can
Hmm.
see on the left here, this expanded metal is actually one of their products. So we
Ah.
actually use the expanded metal to kind of line the walls in the rooms, as you can see on the right as well. So all the rooms are actually lined with their own products.
Hmm. I see.
Yeah. So again, back to our philosophy of brand architecture. So we try to understand where they are from, what they do, so what they represent, and then kind of include that and incorporate that into the space and subtly sometimes, like for example, this.
Hmm.
So this is actually before we started working on the office tower, we actually started doing the sales center first. So all the products here, all the building materials here are from their Jinkong Group's inventory category, the catalogs and stuff like that. So from the corrugated metal panels to all the louvers on the right here. Everything
Hmm.
was from their factory. So we had deep conversations with their sales manager, their building material managers, and kind of dug deep into their catalogs and see what we could use, and then kind of develop the concept
Hmm.
space. So we actually, as you can see on the far left at the back there, the building actually look like that. It's a very it's a I can't really categorize what the architectural style is, but then So
Because
anyway, the
I
building you used to look like this.
yeah, because I see there's a column here, the Corinthian-ish
Yeah.
column. Yeah. So it's like
Yeah. So we could
technically
not
you
really touch the existing building.
ah
So actually we kind of the design language is actually based on the office towers architectural language. So we kind of used the language and kind of depicted it into this space. And then again, using all the materials, and we kind of wrapped up and created this facade for the space.
okay. So this is what's happening
Yeah,
inside. So
yeah.
is it like
So it's
taking
a
out
sales center.
one lot? Before that it was two lot, is it? Or
No, so it's actually connected to the back building. So it's like an L shaped. So we
ah
kind of created this new outdoor space by kind of extending, cantilevering out the roof out coming down. So we kind of created this little courtyard space that they can use for events and stuff like that. So for launching, because it's actually a sales center, so they do a lot of events for the new customers to come in and
hmm,
hang around. And so we kind of created this space off the old building at the back. So
okay.
it's just an extension. We call it the annex actually. So it's part of the existing building.
Okay. So I mean it's very interesting. I mean it's somehow because of the whole working with the same client, but even you see this one is like project from 2015, and then this one is
Yeah,
16, and then the lobby is 17. So there
yeah,
is there is this very holistic cycle of working with the same client, but even though with the same client, but there are different kind of almost different kind of language that actually imply into different kind of types and program. So yeah, that's all pretty much for the presentation. Thanks a lot, Edward, for your
No problem.
very extensive and comprehensive sharing. I think now we will move on to the questionnaires that I mean, on and off, I actually chip in some questions along the way. But there is actually a key question I would like to ask now is like we mentioned earlier, like live streaming, uh, like new design museum, which is actually quite new for me because before that, products just pure product. They wanted to do online stores or physical stores. The sales comes as the base, the fundamental function first, and then the so-called experiential stores is kind of new. I mean, throughout your working experience, like you mentioned, like you did your internship in China before that, do you think it's already emerging, that kind of program? Or is it something very
Oh,
recent, like 5 years?
this is definitely something recent, and I think this is also a very clear depiction of the Chinese market. It's constantly changing, ever changing.
Yeah.
So what you see now and you see 2 years down the road, I believe will be very different as well. So that's actually challenging, but at the same time, it offers a lot of opportunities for young designers like myself, for yourself, because
Mm,
there's so much change and everything is new. There's no need for like a solid portfolio saying that, oh, I've done this before, because there's no
yeah.
chance for you to say that it's done before. So hence, there's lots of opportunities for young firms like myself to go and explore ideas, because they have this constant need and hunger for new things. They want the latest of everything. So that gives us a vast opportunities out there. But of course, as well, there are a lot of designers there, and it's also very competitive. But yeah, it keeps you on your toes, and it's not like something that you can just sit on your particular style and okay, be comfortable with it. You will get left behind. So that kind of market challenges you and keeps you progressing all the time as a studio, as a designer. I think that's one of the key things that I've learned and picked up from China.
Right, right. So I mean, speaking of like competitiveness and also like you mentioned, you need to constantly up to date. I remember like I was looking at Charles Jang's Evolution Tree. He was comparing architectural style, and almost every he split it, if not mistaken, is 1 year, 5 years, and 10 years. So every 5 years there is actually changes. I mean, for some who actually can survive, means there every 10 years you need to constantly change. But when it comes to China market, how do you think it's almost like maybe lesser than 1 year, or it is still there is a time to like a winding period to change?
I'm sure there is a certain period that will have that, like say for example 5 years, there will be definitely big changes. But I
Hmm.
think every year, or maybe down to maybe a smaller scale, maybe for months and all that, every half a year, I'm sure there's always new things coming up, and the new pop-ups, new cafe methods.
Hmm.
I think about a year ago, my staff went to Chengdu, or I can't remember where he went, and then there was a restaurant that serves burgers, and the burgers were served to you through a roller coaster system, and then serve you to your table. And all
Ah.
kinds of fun ideas and fun concepts. Just ever changing, because they want the next best thing. So I think I'm sure there's that 5-10 year big shifts, but there's also smaller scale shifts constantly
Hmm.
changing, ever
Hmm.
changing, ever changing. Because like Haidilao, for example, they have started implementing that robot system that serves tables and all that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Welife shops, that are unmanned. So they're constantly having new ideas because they are forced to adapt, especially during COVID times. So I think, yeah, it's a great time for young designers in China, because they want something different every time.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there's no precedence for the things that they want, because they're just doing something that's going to be copied, then that's just copied, so they want something new.
So now in a way, because we tend to, I mean, before that we tend to see like designs in China. I mean, this is just some exceptional designs. Like for example, they bring in like Eiffel Tower into China. I mean, this is different because they are doing for tourism value. But now they are seems to venture out into their own direction and language where innovation is a new language because they technically they have
Right,
nothing to copy also. So I mean, like,
right.
yeah, unmanned
Yeah,
store.
a lot.
Yeah.
When I believe the preconceived notion for a lot of people, for Chinese designers, is that they copy and things like that. But I think at the start of the era, a lot of the designers perhaps were learning. I would say, instead of saying copy,
Mm,
they were learning along the way. And then once they've learned, they've adapted, they understand the know-how, they do not have to conform to the kind of standard of the norm anymore. They kind of start to venture out into their new styles and their own kind of paths. That's why you look at all the design competitions now, or maybe all these online design platforms. You see a host of new upcoming Chinese projects. Everywhere, every industry from architecture to residential to restaurants. They have a host of their own designers coming up with their own kind of flair. So I think that shows the evolution of the Chinese mentality and mindset. I believe it's also with the production of stuff like, for example, iPhones. They used to manufacture iPhones. Now they have their own brands. Huawei. I can't. There's a host of these companies that they do their own things cheaper, faster, or better. So yeah, I think it's the same thing with our industry as well for design. It's the same thing. They have learned from the past few years, and now they come up to start to do their own revolution and evolution.
But I wonder, do you think there is a certain like for example, when we talk about contemporary architecture, we tend to perhaps like link to Wang Shu, or Neri and Hu. This I mean, like already pushed to a global brand. So, but do you think there is also a emergence in a way searching for China architecture or Chinese identity, like this kind of vernacular or traditional architecture into part of their working style, or even
there is a lot there's a lot of new studios, or design companies, like I think it's called Arc Studio, or this new young company. They do Chinese vernacular architecture, but they incorporate a lot of new ideologies and very, very interesting ways to kind of develop that very classical Chinese architecture. So kind of architecture companies that are going this direction, very representing that Chinese philosophies, but then giving it a very modern twist. So there's a host of these kind of new age architectural designers coming up. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to that, it's much more like in a relation to this kind of proximity to relate to the people who actually, like, when, for example, like the National Exhibition Center, Convention Center, where you adopt this logo as the patterns. So it's very easy to click in a way, okay, I recognize this logo, or I recognize this symbol, and then there's a meaning of it. And then when it comes to your project, do you see like the elements or decorative ornaments, for example, how does it relate to your design? In a way, do you search it from a rather, perhaps there must be a excavation of history or certain philosophy to enrich the design narrative, like which you wish to deliver? Because I think, like I said, also the projects that you have shown, there is no consistent things, because you already like venture into different kind of approach as well. So how do you see that, instead of searching for the so-called local identity, why don't create a new identity?
Yeah, so I think what I do perhaps is a very non-contextual kind of design approach. We don't really look at, for example, local context, but we study and focus mainly on the brand itself. Because the brands, for example, they can be from a different town, but they want to open a showroom or a center somewhere in a different city. So we want to represent the brand holistically and show all kinds of elements of the brand. So that's why we have a deep dive into the brands and study what the true identity is. And that's kind of drawing all these elements and creating our kind of spatial narratives, based on those elements. Not so much like just local materials, but for example, the Vasen Experience Center, we really went through all the catalogs of all the building materials, and we use what they can produce. So hence, it's a win-win for the client, because first of all, we bring down the production cost of the construction, right? Because everything, all the building materials, 70% of the building materials is supplied by the clients themselves. At the same time, it's again, what's the best way to kind of showcase their products is by actually using their products for the building materials. So it's a win-win. So for us, it's about coming up with the most provocative solutions, that kind of push boundaries. At the same time, it kind of teases the consumer, saying, hey, I never thought about it that way. I never thought about using the materials like that, So yeah, instead of because I know a lot of like Malaysian designers, we were first things first when we brought up studying architecture, we think of understanding local materials or what the local craftsmen can produce, or what the local manufacturers can harvest or supply. So actually, we are adopting the same kind of mentality for our kind of projects, but our local context is actually our clients. Their products, their inventory or their expertise. So yeah, we dive and research based on what they can produce, what they can do, or what they want to do, and then come up with our kind of design solutions per se. That's why we don't really conform to one particular style or anything. But what you can see is that we try to explore with materials and textures and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, just now you mentioned about brand architecture. It reminds me of this association between the company identity and architecture or interior design. But when it comes to if I had to separate this into two different things, where in speaking of the corporate brand or the company brand, they are usually already established for some time. For example, like Hire or Siemens, for example, like those brands already have a very significant signature, like blue color, for example. Do you find a certain constraint, for example, you wanted to try out red color, it might clashing with the color scheme, or a certain language, like when we talk about Hire, it's like more fluish, more fluidity, more seamless, and then you try to do something, angular or something edgy, it might be contrast to that. Or do you think the client actually allows for this, juxtaposition to, to promote their brand better?
I think the clients nowadays, they are willing to explore different ideas. Hence icha, they did not give me a brief based on that kind of context. They wanted something green. They wanted some plants and stuff like that, or something that can represent the tea fields. So it's actually really how you interpret the idea and how, of course, you translate it into a design concept. So that actually the consumer can understand, that also resonates with the brand. So like you said, let's say you wanted to go for something angular when the brand is well known for something that is fluid and very curvy, but if it makes sense for the space, the context, or the particular brief or the function, I believe, if you have a strong enough reason, I think any concept goes, I think that's, but again, like my stories just now, sometimes the clients, of course, they themselves will back out because it's not what they're used to. There's of course that kind of risk, or for example, BY, when I proposed the idea, he's also thinking like it's kind of weird, isn't it? There's no structure to it, there's no basis to it. It's weird because it's never done before, never seen before. So hence, there are those kind of challenges when you try to propose provocative ideas, things that have not been done before that challenge the norm. Yeah, you might get dropped. Like I said, these are the projects that you see have come to fruition. There are many countless ideas and concepts that you try, but doesn't always work out. But to me, as a designer, you do have to take certain risk, and then calculated risk, I would say, with, of course, if extensive research and all that, you can prove your understanding of the brand and why you do it like that, and we do it, of course, within a sensible budget or a sensible way to build it. I think the client will think it's a good idea. It's new, it's challenging, it's fun. I'm sure they will go with it.
Yeah. I just have thought like another, like you mentioned, is about this kind of reflection of, design, or the interior design itself is a physical manifestation of the corporate itself, or the certain identity or logo, because the logo itself is the much more on, like a 2D representation of a certain a corporate or a company, where interior design is much more three-dimensional. And when it comes to, like you say, the materials itself, do you think somehow, like for example, we tend to think marble is expensive materials, or tend to relate like timber is an expensive material? How do you see like the quote unquote politics of materials? In a way, materials could be looks like expensive, but doesn't mean that it have to be expensively sourced to accommodate with the client's needs. Or do you think you try to fit in this. Perhaps in architectural education, we tend to think this kind of integrity or originality, where try not to use the vinyl things. If you want to use marble, you must use a real marble or things like that.
I think it also definitely starts off with the first conversation with the client, understanding what they want to do. Of course, if you can design within their budget, which is not always the case, that's the best, because understanding from the get-go what the budget is and what the limitations are, explain to the client, okay, with this budget, we can go with this direction, this kind of materials, and for them to understand it, it's also a process. The convincing them is actually a skill, selling your ideas and all that. So yeah, like for example, like again, there's not always a need to use the most expensive materials to kind of create an interesting idea. Of course, there are times when you do need that, but like for example, my BY project, we use very simple materials, the plastic palette, that costs I think 50 RMB for one, and we use 600 of it. So that kind of offsets the thought process, of using expensive materials, because the function outweighs that, because we created something that is that showcases the display system, at the same time can be used and adaptable for their tiered seating and all that. So when they have multiple reasons to go into direction, you can always explore these kind of innovative ideas. Again, of course, there are times when you can use expensive materials. Then, of course, by all means, it's always nice to use high-end materials. Yeah, but again, I think it's always starting with the conversation with the clients. I think that's the most important thing for especially designers, starting off on their own firms and all that. With smaller projects, unfortunately, you have smaller budgets, smaller spaces, but you need to be innovative. That's why you need to explore, find out, what you can find locally, or what is available in the market, and then kind of manipulating it into creating something unique.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, is to how to convince the client, and conversation with client is definitely something very new. In a way, especially for graduates, they just come out from school. It's something very refreshing, and you never talk to client in a way, because your client is technically your tutor or your critics.
They are your most harsh critic, because they don't like it. They just tell you they don't like it. There's no mixing of words. But I think this skill, like I said, like sports, you need practice. There's no such thing as one time, the first time and you get it right away. There's never once when I can go in so confidently and say that, okay, it's 100%, but yeah, it's a practice, that you need to constantly do and don't shy away from, So for me, I think one thing, maybe when I was naive or something back then, when I went to my first internship, not first internship, the internship in Shanghai, going into the deep end, talking to the clients, I didn't think too much about it, but I think that kind of set the precedence and helped me pave my way to be able to converse with my clients. Like I said, I didn't speak Chinese when I first went to China, and I had Chinese clients, so that was also quite challenging. Hence, a lot of my ideas, my concepts, were very nature driven, because it's something very easy to understand, very easy to explain for me. So I think you need to understand what your weaknesses are and what your skills are. So I understand from an early stage, that my biggest weakness is Chinese. I had designers that could speak Chinese on my behalf, but there are certain limitations because we have such short periods of time to develop the ideas. Most of the ideas are in my mind, so when we go to the meetings, the best person to converse with is, of course, myself. So that's hence, I shared previously with you, a lot of my concepts and ideas were very direct and developed from like nature, It's because it's very easily translated and very easy for people to absorb, So yeah, I think that's how some of my thought process is for what I've been doing, and how how I can kind of explain my ideas to my clients, So yeah, that's one of how I kind of form my ideas.
Yeah, I mean, earlier when we talk about this idea of nature, is a very easy to engage with the client, like you said. But this, what I would call it, the idea of taste, is different when we are doing like courses in school, because our so-called client are designers, they are lecturers, they are architects, so their tastes are very inclusive in a way. Sorry, very exclusive. But then when
Yeah,
we
yeah.
come to the mass culture or the people who are actually not study architecture, they might think the
Correct, correct.
aesthetic differently. So do you, I mean this is much more, my concern is much more on the link between education and practice. Do you think there is a missing link where there is a when I was looking at some example where one of the article sayings about future of architects is that the missing link, the commercial language is missing. In a way, it's not just about making money, it's also how to do communication. So how do you think this is actually largely, it's not, of course it's not, it can't be taught in school, but there is actually a better way to introduce this kind of practice realm into the a school or teaching.
I think this social skill, if I can
Yeah,
put it,
yeah.
is actually a very important thing, because our work scope, it's important that you need to be able to communicate and talk to your clients, contractors, suppliers, your team, So conversing is actually very key. And I think for myself, doing my internships in Penang before I graduated, then of course in Shanghai as well, I think for me, those were the um, most informative kind of time that during my learning years, because I actually got to deal with real life situations, and how you read situations, read people's reactions, whether they like it or don't like it. So I guess everybody has a different way of learning things. For myself, I think the work environment actually allowed me and allowed me to learn the most. So for me, when I went out to the working world, that's when I really absorbed everything, and I kind of picked up the learning process really quickly. So I myself enjoyed that part of my education more than actually just in being in school. In school, of course, you learn the basics. You have your architecture understanding, your very ideologies. You form those philosophies. But then when you go into the real world, you start to adapt them. And how to adapt them. So I think for me, again, I think it's practice. For me, if I could encourage the younger generation of our current designer students, I think doing internships, going and trying yourself, learning in real life situations is very important, because there's something that you cannot learn, and there's no formula to it, there's no syllabus to it, So yeah, the more you put yourself in uncomfortable situations is how you actually kind of learn and experience and adapt. So for me, yeah, I understand it's very hard for the education system to have something like a course like this for something, for example, because everybody is different as well. How you react to confrontations, how you react to thoughts or people, is different. So every environment is different. So I think for me, I will encourage people to go and venture into internships or do part-time jobs in design firms, or even just in the real world, just doing working in a cafe, for example, dealing with people, dealing with problems, I think that's very, very key. If I would give myself advice as well, my younger self, I would have started doing part-time jobs even earlier, even younger, because not even just in design, but even like I said, the real life situations, because when you come across difficulty and challenges, that's when you kind of adapt and you learn, without these kind of things, yeah. And in design, it's very harsh. You get no a lot, get told no a lot, and it's ugly or I don't like it, there's no reason for it. So you need to develop this thick skin, so that you can be able to, yeah, because that's the truth, you need to be able to have that kind of shield, and the naivety, so that you can continue to push new ideas and all that, yeah. I think that's something that can't really be learned in school, but yeah, you need to go out there and experience it yourself, go out there and mingle around,
The so-called soft skill is actually the thing that
yeah,
I would say
yeah,
is like more learning from the street culture. It's like learn from the so-called street university, and by reading people and reading. It's almost like psychological, but it's much more informal and it's much more natural in a way, what I thought.
yeah.
I just thought there is one last question before we move on, something casual and informal, that because as I look at especially the higher experimental store and also experiential store, it's much more clean and white, and there's push for this kind of a seamless design. It reminds me of Foster design for Apple Store, for example. There is this sophisticated design, but for me, I think it's nice, but there is actually a limitation where I really can't think of something beyond that in speaking of design, other than much more make it more smarter. make it much more technologically like energy efficiency and things like that to enhance the building performance. Because I think aesthetic wise is already maximum in a way. The alignment, the this kind of grid, this kind of partition, or this kind of what do they call, the cutting of different kind of tiles or ceiling already maximum. And I'm not sure how do you see in this sense, like architectural wise, the technique already pushed to the maximum. Do you think is there a space to push on other than smart technology, or do you think we have to look out for another kind of quote unquote style to refresh this kind of aesthetic value?
I think, I mean, I personally am a big fan of the Norman Foster design kind of Apple stores, because they, like you said, they push the boundaries of the technical detailing. They constantly improve and they constantly challenge all the engineers and all the manufacturers, because I think I've seen a lot of the Apple stores, and the detailing involved in all the projects, it's hard to notice in pictures, but when you see it in real life, it's immense. And I think it's the same thing with the iPhone. You look at the iPhone years ago, you think that can it get better? It won't get better, right? But then they do get better. Less buttons, less cleaner aesthetics. Sleeker, bigger storage. I think same thing with the higher. The philosophy of the products as well. It's the same thing. How they improve on the products. It's the same for the architecture and the interior design. And constantly push boundaries, especially with the Apple stores these days, they're going forth with the new direction for the Rome store, the one in Rome. They incorporate the historical element into the space as well. So the technology and the historical part combined together. I believe technology and architecture will just continue to grow and develop. So we will constantly see new things in that kind of approach.
But I mean, when it comes to architecture design wise, like for example, like the WeChat welife project already significantly, pronounce a changes. For example, there will be no need for cashier. There is a new thing called live streaming booth or things like that in your other project. Correct. So how do you see in building construction wise, will there be more changes apart from the speed? For example, like maybe before that need to install one ceiling, maybe needs 1 hour. Now maybe 30 minutes you can did it. You can do it already.
Yeah, I'm sure you can see, the Dizino or Arcadeli, the recent growth, of course, of the prefabricated building materials, that alone, or with 3D printing. I think with the new technology, it just improves and allows designers like us, to kind of explore and venture out into different kinds of things, so that we can try to create new forms, new spatial identities. Of course, like you said, shorten the building period. Of course, it helps. For example, what we used to do takes maybe 3 weeks, but now it takes you only 2 weeks or 1 week. So that allows you more opportunities and more possibilities. So I believe with shortened time periods means also cheaper, maybe labor cost.
Yeah.
Means bringing down the construction cost, means you again have more options to develop new ideas and things like that. So I think, this kind of technology advancement, allows us designers to go and really even see more opportunities and see more ideas come to fruition that could never be done before. So I think the boundaries are limitless.
But I mean, speaking specifically talking about your practice, is there any things undergoing to explore more options or different ways of doing architecture in a way? Perhaps nowadays you guys actually invest like a 3D printing or things like that to explore more differently.
Actually, we do have we have a couple of 3D printers in our office. We used to do a lot of exhibition centers, and then they wanted a lot of fast-paced 3D modeling. But of course our 3D modeling 3D machine is actually quite small, a printer. So we do use it off and on, but not as often as well. But because it really depends on the projects and the kind of requirements that we have. So yeah, I think really depends on the client's brief and on what the direction is. So I think what we try to do is that we try to explore simple materials as well, not just very high tech or very high end materials. So as you can see in our projects, yeah, we try to. Not every project is. Not every project has a super deep budget. So yeah, sometimes you need to go strip down to back to the basics, to kind of explore how you can use those kind of materials to generate new ideas, and not just only new materials to kind of generate new ideas. Yeah, so sometimes we do have to go back to the basics and constantly innovate and develop new things. Yeah, so I think our studio, yeah, we do have a bit of both. New materials, we try to push boundaries, but at the same time, yeah, more down to earth materials, like wood, metal, aluminum, so simple things like that as well. We try to explore and kind of see what else we can do with it.
So thanks a lot, Edward, for sharing your projects. I mean, you are sharing both technical information and also both like philosophical wise, and also the lessons on practice. So which I really appreciate a lot. Maybe we can move on to a bit more informal and casual questions before we end this session.
Sure.
So thanks a lot for your time. Actually, I just wanted to ask, because like you said, Spaceman Studio is, with a tagline saying that it's a storyteller of space. But when it comes to a space, which space do you think that it tells the story the most? Perhaps in your personal project, or maybe in your travel or your working experience, that you have been working in different countries and places, which tells you the most significant experience?
Okay, that's a very good question. Perhaps let me think. One of the key spaces or places that I've been to over the years that really kind of resonated with me, and I felt very emotionally connected or touched by the spaces are Alila Villa in Uluwatu. It's in Bali.
Okay.
Alila Villa, yeah, it's a hotel by Wuha actually. So it's actually a fantastic space because they investigated potential the fusion of vernacular architecture with very modernist design. The space combines traditional Balinese architecture and the rural landscape of the paddy fields together with a modern dynamic space, and for me what they created was very, very inspiring, because you go in, the design detailing of the space, then the materials that they use were all very local materials, so they broke away from the very atypical typology for Balinese hotels.
Right.
But at the same time, though, they use all the local craftsmen, all the local materials, I think it was the volcanic rocks, and they used those local materials and created something that was very, very unique. So for me, the storytelling, showcasing the rich history of the location, the space, but at the same time putting it in a very modern composition. To me, I think that was one of the most fun and experiential spaces that I've been to. I think the pictures themselves don't do it justice. So yeah, I think that was one of the very fun and very interesting and inspiring spaces, because for me, that it tells a story of the location and the people and the craftsmen and the paddy field. They intertwine the hotel into the paddy field as well without disrupting the space. And then the overhang of the pavilion over the cliff edge. It was very awe-inspiring. I think that's one of my favorite spaces. I actually took my wedding photos there after I went there for a holiday, and I went back again to take my wedding photos there. So yeah, it's one of my favorite spaces. With me and my wife, we love that space.
Right. That's nice, because I noticed the motifs, like the timber carvings on top as a wall or something, and then perhaps many would actually remember the slits, the timber slits. It's like a floating slits on the pavilions. I think that's one of the most significant photos, as I remember. As I remember.
The carvings, tell the story about the local history. How they used to build the houses. The materials that they used were very very local, but the way they put it together in the composition is very modern. So for me, that was a very good balance between the local and a modern design. So for me, I think that kind of resonated with what I like to do as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to notice the another pavilions, which is like they use the column is like a cross. It's like a mies kind of columns where like so it looks more slicker. Okay,
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that's a very interesting project as well. Okay, thanks a lot for sharing on that. And also, like you mentioned, you train as an architect, you receive architectural education. What is your unrealized project or dream project you wish to deliver? Because as I know, I mean, for the listeners, if you wish to check out more spacemen, you can go and check it out at spacemen-studio.com. They actually do others works as well. I mean, of course, interior designs are architecture as well, but they do design like hotel, like different kind of buildings. There's one I remember is like a forest, like a tree house. I believe it's a hotel, it's or like a homestay or something in the jungle. So yeah, I'm not sure about your unrealized project. Is there any project you wish to do?
Of course, I think in the short term, I think one of my goals would be to, of course, to complete a hotel project. I think that's one of my goals. Hotel or resort, that would be very fun. Yeah, I think that's these kind of spaces will encompass all kinds of industries. You know, they have F&B, they have residential, they have rooms, they have hospitality. You know, so I think those are one of the most holistic and kind of fun type of projects that probably every kind of designer would want to do. You know, and of course, maybe if you think even further, perhaps a project that's not on Earth.
Somewhere designed on the
Yeah,
Mars or
that would be
something.
quite interesting. Why not? You know, I think I've seen some projects, you know, that they build on Mars, on the moon. You know, I think that'd be quite challenging as well. Because I know for me, you know, I've always been inspired by film. You know, so when you watch a lot of those, films, you know, you see there's no limit to it. You know, you can always go as far as you can. So I think maybe something that in that kind of realm, you know, that would be quite interesting as well.
Will that push your practice to try other idea competition, like design a rocket or design something else?
Of course, I mean, I mean, like I said, as long as there's a space, you know, involved, you know, we'll definitely be open to it. You know.
That's that's a space that we are looking at, like outer space. Okay, thanks a lot, Edward. I think how about, do you have anything to share for the young designers, or for the students who are currently studying architecture? Because before that, you already mentioned a key point, which is talks about like social skill and soft skills. Other than that, and like you mentioned, also try to grab as much as opportunity to work, in internship, or try to get a taste in a real life practice. Yeah. So is there any other lessons or advice would you like to share?
I think understanding where your skills are and your weaknesses as well, you know, and then of course translating that into something that can be unique,
Right.
creating your own style, you know, that's important. You know? So yeah, by understanding these two things, you know, your limitations, of course, and then you can kind of develop your own path. I think that's one of the key things that you need to be able to do. And from an early stage, you know, if you identify this, you know, you can kind of develop it further and explore, you know, of course, and yeah, blending this artistic side with a more commercial understanding. You know, I think this is important. You know, as a young designer, a lot of people don't understand this part of it. So yeah, I think these are the two things that I think will help translate into something that of a more successful career. You know, so yeah, I think these two things will be very important for the next generation.
Right. Thanks a lot. How about you? Do you wanted to throw a question to me or to the listeners? I mean, it could be an open-ended question, because since I already asked, I mean, along the way, I've been asking like a lot of questions. I hope it doesn't brings you a lot of trouble. But I just thought that if
No,
you
no,
wanted to,
no.
to share any questions, like for our listeners to reflect on that.
I think what would the future be like, you know, because what we design, what we always wanted to design is something forward thinking, right? So
Right.
I believe what's the future, you know, what's the future for retail, what's the future for F&B, especially in COVID times, you know, what's the new norm, and how we can kind of create something positive from all this. You know, I think that's the key challenge for everyone
Yeah.
in every industry. You know, so yeah, like you mentioned earlier, you know, with all the live streaming, is that the solution? Maybe not. You know, so what's the real key solution with is it the flagship stores? Maybe not as well, because people might go around and come back to saying that I need to feel the products themselves, or I want to kind of experience it myself. So what is the real solution for all these kind of issues that we encounter these days? You know, so I think What's the new? What's in the future? You know,
Mm.
what is the future for all kinds of industries?
Okay. Right. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Edward. So thank you so much and really appreciate for your time. And I hope you enjoy the conversation and somehow we just talk more than what we expected. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually thought that, there are actually more questions to ask in practical sense, but I guess next time we can catch up again, we can talk more about it. I
Yeah, of
really hope
course.
all the best to you and take a great care and be safe. And I can't wait to
Thank you. You
see
too.
and
You too,
yeah,
Gary.
I can't wait to see you maybe meet up in China and then we can go around and see some great architecture around.
Yes. You're more than welcome to. When I get back to China as well, you know, now that we're
Yeah.
stuck here, you know, yeah. When I finally get back, I'm sure that I'll be more than happy to host you in China.
Right. Thanks a lot, Edward. And I hope you have a great time and I'll check out with you and talk to you then. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gary. Thank
Thanks
you.
a
Bye
lot. See
bye.
you then. Bye.